Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. We are here live with Gabriel Ra. Say hello.
Hello.
He's going to be answering some of our deepest questions, things that are going on in the world and the universe, spiritually, whatever questions you have. Now, he's not here doing readings, he's here answering questions. I just need to make that clear to some people. So, all right. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Mom. Hi, Linda.
Hi, everybody.
More will probably be joining us soon. And, well, we got the dog sitting next to you now. Then we got the little people here, too.
Look at them.
All right.
Buddy.
Yeah, they are. Wherever she goes, he will follow. I'm going to turn this radio down a little bit. Here. Okay. All right, so this is, not like a professional setup or anything. Everybody, we're just doing this out of my home with some people who have come to ask questions. I know me and Lisa have enough questions to keep them going for a while, but if you do have questions, please feel free to post them. All right. Hey, Lisa, I know you're going to want the answer to this one.
I have to say one thing is congratulations to everybody who's on Earth right now, because this is an incredible time to be here. And the people that had the power to come here at this time really has to be given a lot of credit, because we need strong people in this time of global change. And you are the people who are here for that purpose. So
We
I got to
bought
hand it
tickets
to
for
all of
this
you
show.
for being here and hanging on.
Yeah, hanging on. That's the big quest right there. Anything else you like to say?
That's it.
Okay. All right. So I was thinking the other day, I'm always thinking about my pets. I always worry about when they pass on, because I know I watched something on TV about this little boy who passed away, and he met Jesus there, and he says, I need you to go back and tell people what happens, what's going on here. And they said that all the pets that he ever had would come running around and greeting him. But at the same time, you said, well, not that they have a soul, but do they go there? Do they greet us when we
Okay,
pass?
well, everything that is in manifestation or on earth anywhere has some type of ensoulment, because soul is the causality of the physical world. So animals have a little type of different situation because they're not self-conscious, but they are conscious. So for instance, all the dogs have one soul, and the soul of all dogs then lights all the animals that we see. And so each, in the animal kingdom, the third kingdom, each species has its own soul that ensouls all those forms. Just like you could say in the human kingdom, one soul ensouls all our incarnations. In the animal kingdom, there's a soul behind each specific type of animal. So when you contact that animal truly, you contact the soul behind it. For instance, when I look at my cats, I can't help but seeing Bass, or the soul behind the cats. And we develop a relationship with the soul behind our animals. That's why we love them so much, because we develop a soul relationship with, the soul which brings them here. And that's very important, because as we bring soul relationships to earth, so do we bring a heavenly situation on earth, because heaven and the kingdom of souls is almost identical.
So God may be allowing us to see our animal friends when we get there.
Well, so
because if I thought I couldn't see her, I would just die when she died.
I had that kind of trauma too when we lost cats so close to us. And I talked to the cat soul, Bass, and she said that our human connection with these specific animals almost gave them a permanence in our memory, so that each kingdom supports the kingdom below it, and kind of reaches towards the kingdom above it. Like humans reach towards the fifth kingdom, so they may be enlightened and ascended and all that stuff. Well, the animals reach towards the humans, and the animals who are living with humans are actually reaching towards self-consciousness. And the way this is done is with the love of humans. Just like the love of God comes through the fifth kingdom and shows us that we're divine, so does our love come into animals and brings them closer to their own self-consciousness. So we are the masters of animals, and we are their teachers. We are their benefactors, and what we do with them determines what type of a human they're going to be when they do enter the fourth kingdom. So this is a very divine relationship to have with an animal, because it's it's family. It's beyond family.
Because even the Buddhists had said something about well, they were supposed to come back as like a donkey or something like that. Either they were paying some sort of penance or something like that, that they would make them come back in animal form. So I don't know if you can go backwards.
That never happened.
Okay.
Nature does not go back.
No.
And it always goes forward. Once you've attained a thought, humans can't incarnate as an animal. That just doesn't happen.
Thank you. We both had that kind of question.
Yes. And the
I
question.
need a little clarification though.
Okay.
Sure.
When you talk about the fifth kingdom, is that the same as the fifth dimension?
The fifth kingdom operates in the fifth dimension, just as the fourth kingdom, the humans, operate in the dimension of time and are destined to master time. And
What's the fourth dimension?
time. Time.
She says I keep
animals
losing sound.
don't have that type of memory. So for an animal, there is no time. There's only the moment that they're living in. So they live in the third dimension of space and presence. And we live in the fourth dimension of time because we can see ourselves in different times. The fifth kingdom
some
lives.
People see.
Well, our memory shows that we remember who we were.
Not everybody remembers though.
It doesn't matter. They remember something. Everybody can remember some kind of a past. And that shows they're fourth dimensionally conscious. Where animals don't remember any past. Animals can be trained, to remember things like this is where I pooped and stuff like that, or this is my bowl. But that's a training. That's not actually remembering. Everything they do is new.
Don't they have a memory though if they've been abused?
They have they remember what they like and what they don't like. That's it. They have conflict. They learn that from humans. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably do. No. Well, Freya, it's just like she's learned how to wake me up when I was snoring. I had the sleep apnea and things like that. And I would swear she was one of my other dogs because she would automatically go and sit in the doorway where I used to train my other dogs to sit before she ever existed. I'm like, how do you know to sit there and wait for your food? I never told you to sit and stay or anything like that. She just goes over there, parks it, and waits.
We've had that experience too. We had a cat which we were really super attached to. And a year or two later, this little kitten, which was born outside, came up to our door and just sat there waiting for us to let him in. I mean, we had no contact with it. And we feel like the memory of one of our cats actually gives them a permanence in their group soul, so that memory can then reincarnate in another one of their forms. And we feel like we have experienced cats that we've had before. So this is a tricky situation because, memory actually brings things into being. So, as we remember things, we can not only change them, but we can enhance ourselves through our memory. And this is something animals can't do. But by our remembering animals, I asked Basque, I said, are all these cats which I love so much, are they really gone? And she told me that they're not gone as long as I remember them, because I gave them a personality in part of the cat's soul, and that will never go away because I'm an eternal being, which means everything I remember is eternal also. So when we remember our animals and we love them, we set up something that's beyond just an animal relationship. We set up something that's actually part of the soul.
Because we've had, when my Jasmine died, Freya, when we all went to bed, it was a little thing. Freya would jump on the bed first, and she would watch Jasmine come walk around the bed and walk to her bed and lay down. And sometimes she'd bark at her. She'd just run around the bed and follow her as she's coming to bed. When Jasmine died, that night, Jasmine jumped in bed and she was following her. She was walking around the bed and doing that thing. So it's like Jasmine was back here. And then like my friend Dave, he says, you don't see her, she's here. But so well, why is she not showing herself to me of all people? I was afraid she's upsetting us. She's upsetting me by not appearing to me. So it's that she was there, there are just times like she'll react like she sees Jasmine.
Yeah.
Certain things they would do together or things like that. Boy, Freya.
I actually had something interesting happen with me with my ghost buddy. I had a cat when my daughter was 3 or 4, and his name was Buddy. Big stripy cat. And he ended up getting hit in the road. We had a funeral that was better than most human funerals. I cried and I yelled and I screamed so hard, buried him in the cat garden, whatever. Well, now, I don't know how old is Buddy? No, Ghost. Ghost is about 3 now. I did not want to get another stripy cat. I had nothing but problems with stripy cats. But Hope wanted this and was persistent on having this cat because we lost Sparky, another stripy cat, at 7. And this cat got him when he was more a kitten. That said, he's going to be a big boy. Yep, he's a big boy. One day I was sitting there and he just mouthing off to me, and I'm sitting on the edge, and I looked at him and I go, out of my mouth came, "Oh, are you the ghost of Buddy?" He turned around and he looked at me and just yelled at me. And I'm like, oh my God, he's the ghost of Buddy. They almost look identical.
So I was like, hey, you finally got it.
And it's like annoying. Like he's the ghost of Buddy. Because I said to Hope, I go, should we rename him? No. And she innately knew. She didn't know what it was. And then when I told her the story, and it was like, oh my God, you're the ghost of Buddy.
Now I know we will have some questions from online, but this is the big one. This is the really twisted and dimensional question. I'm not even sure if I can explain it right. Okay. Where do we go if we are living in, there's multiple dimensions that we're living simultaneously all the time, they say. So they say, boy, if I knew this, what I know now, I would have done things differently. Well, you're getting that chance to do things differently, but they say that there's multiple dimensions going on. They're saying thousands of dimensions going on at the same time. So
you're talking about past lives, right?
No, I'm talking about simultaneously right now.
that all boils down to living in 3 worlds at the same time.
And where do you go when one of you dies? Do you all go to the same place? Now, if you had animals, do you have the same animals? Do you reunite with the same people?
You don't have other people. You have other incarnations, which are living in other times. But as far as our consciousness here, we are in one place. And our history is our destiny. Anything that has happened becomes our destiny. Anything that could happen becomes our possibility. So free will and destiny kind of meet right here where we're sitting in the moment.
Yeah.
So there aren't really any other places to be, because the place we are right now is the place we've chosen. So, our consciousness always.
Sure. It seems that, I mean, you watch these things on like aliens or ancient aliens and stuff like that, but even other people
said. I'm not saying that there aren't other dimensions and possibilities, but they're irrelevant.
Where's our
We're not responsible for them. Only thing responsible for is what lies within our realm of perception, which is what we're creating.
So is there a heaven for each reality of perception? This is kind of what I'm saying. Like when you die, and if you die in another dimension, does your doppelganger like meet up with you?
No.
I mean, it's these really weird, enticing questions.
Well, as far as dimensions go, we live in 5 dimensions. We always live in 5 dimensions. That doesn't mean there's other ones of us. That means we live, our consciousness is simultaneously experiencing 5 dimensions. Okay, we are experiencing a physical dimension in our physical body. we are experiencing an astral dimension in our astral body, which is actually a second dimensional experience. It's this and that, up and down. It's a experience of duality. We are experiencing a third dimension in our mental body because we have locked ourselves in space-time and we have chosen a moment to live. We're living in the fourth dimension because we can feel all the other times we've been in, and we can feel the looming possibility of other times which we may enter if we choose. We are living in the fifth dimension because all these things are come together in the fifth dimension, that everything is happening at the same time, and it's kind of the synthesis of the other four dimensions. Now that doesn't mean we have other selves. This is all us. This is all our consciousness, which has access to all these dimensions. Now, in order to align ourselves with these, we have to realize that we have a physical world we're living in, and we have an emotional world we're living in, and we have a mental world. This is not a thought world, but a mental world is where our core beliefs come from. So to organize our personality, to have some sort of sense of reality, we have to get all these three worlds in line with each other, so that the physical world has the same goals and ideals as our emotional world, and our emotional world supports our physical world, and our mental world is a product of our own creation. See, here's where it starts. When we're born, we are given core beliefs on the mental plane, which creates how we think about life, how we're going to react to the feelings we have, and what kind of life we're going to walk through with our physical body. We chose these things because these are how we're going to learn to open our ears to hear the voice of the soul. So when the personality aligns itself physically, emotionally, and in its be a product of its own belief systems, and then an alignment occurs and we actually hear the voice of the soul. And then the soul, which is the cause of everything that happens in the world, starts dominating our life. Because once we realize where we're going, why we're here, and what all our goals and purposes are, which is encapsulated in our soul, then the personality kind of just has a place to go. It knows what it's here for. It knows what it's supposed to feel about the world, and it knows what kind of ideas it's supposed to create about creating its future. Now, this takes effort. And now, see, humanity was kind of trapped in the physical consciousness for a while because last time the Bodhisattva was here, or Christ, he realized that humanity was losing ground. The lower astral plane was actually overtaking the physical. There were psychic misgivings. There were just all sorts of nasty things coming through from the lower astral into the physical. So he put up a barrier between the physical and astral plane so that these things wouldn't happen. But, even Christ cannot remove us from our dharma, because we have to eat everything we grow. And if we grew shit, we have to eat it in the end. So, right now, these barriers are getting taken out because it's time for the bird to leave the nest. It's time for us to take responsibility for everything we've created and make good of it. Now, we can look at our past two ways. We can say, oh, I really screwed up. This is going to hurt me here, here, and here, and this is what this done to me. Or we can look at it and say, to look at the experiences I've had that showed me what's good and works and what doesn't work. And on those experiences, I can build a launch pad which will create a future that's been better than any of my pasts have been. So in the way we interpret our life and the way we look at it determines what kind of a life we'll have. So our idea about the physical world, which can be somebody else's or our own, determines how our life goes.
Just drag her down.
Our idea about our feelings and our emotions can enhance us and make us more sensitive, or it can drive us inside and make us more inhibited. So it's how we use these things. And when we're able to change our core belief about the physical world and the emotional world, then we have learned to free ourselves from the imposition of the matrix, as they call it. Now, the matrix, I can say a little bit about that, is it's not something that's bad. It's like a construct or a game field that we've allowed ourselves to play in so we can understand the workings of the physical, the emotional, the astral body, and the mental body where we create our reality. So in dealing with these three worlds, we are dealing with actually 5 dimensions of life, and they are encapsulated in the organizing of the personality in these 3 worlds. And only the organized personality can be an enlightened personality, because once it's enlightened by the light of the soul. Nothing the personality does is causal. It is an effect of what the soul has put before us. The soul causes everything, and how we react to it determines the value our personality gets out of it. See, when you're looking at the big picture, we are a personality living in 3 worlds. We are a soul living in another couple of worlds. And then our true identity is a spiritual presence, a spark of God, which is unlike none other in the universe. And in those 3 are our divine 3 presences. Now, as we move towards bringing all these together, the training ground for this is in organizing the 3 worlds of the personality, getting our physical life in line with our emotions, and getting our core belief systems empowering us and not working against us. So when you believe something somebody tells you about yourself, it's their core belief that is creating your world, not yours. So this is why we have to go through all our belief systems on the mental plane and say, do I really believe the physical world is this screwed up? Do I really believe my emotions are hurting me and I shouldn't have them? Do I really believe that my beliefs should come from somewhere else and not me? These are the questions which can remake us if we deal with these questions directly. And we take back our core belief systems about the 3 worlds we live in.
I have a question. Okay, so most people are spiritual in some form or another, but the last few years have been obviously super intense for the human psyche. When is it possible to jump out of the matrix, the illusion of evil and all the stuff that's going on?
You mean ascending or?
No, actually.
To jump out of the matrix would
Quite
be jump
before
out of the
ascending.
world we live in. What we need to do is reprogram the matrix with our own ideas and values. Because it's not the matrix that's hurting us. The matrix does not hurt us. It's a training ground for our experience. And what hurts us is that somebody else is giving us the rules of our training. They don't come from us. So we need to get into the matrix and reprogram it for self-empowerment, emotional acceptance, and the ability, the belief in our ability that we can change our world. And we don't have to live up to the expectations that have been impinged upon us.
My mom made a comment, I think, on the spiritual side. I was reading Sylvia Browne, and she says the other side is only 3 feet above ground level and about ground level, and that exists on a frequency higher than ours on Earth. Do you understand what she means?
What exists on a frequency higher?
That she says that the other side, I guess when we pass, is only 3 feet above ground level, about ground level, and that it exists on a frequency higher than ours. Because I like dimensions again. There's dead dimensions too, and they're walking with us
there's
too.
There's a lot of other sides. Okay, maybe I should go over what happens when the human dies.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good
one. After the body dies, first a death hormone comes into the body, initiated by the soul, so that there's no pain in death. Death is, no matter what kind of pain you're in, up to the point of death. When you die, there's no pain, because the death hormone separates the etheric body from the physical body. And if the physical body doesn't have an etheric connection, it can't feel anything. So death is always peaceful. When the physical body dies, the astral body does not die immediately.
What about violent deaths, like burning and drowning?
Or just like when you're knocked out of your body immediately, well, then you don't feel anything anyway.
Are
But if
you?
No, she said like if you're burning, you're screaming
Like,
like you're on fire.
You're on fire. That
you
hurts.
probably,
That's painful.
being on fire probably hurts temporarily, but the actual point of leaving the body, it would not hurt, because the death hormone, like I say, is triggered as soon as the body knows it's going to die. It allows the death hormone out. It's holding it. We all have death hormone in our body, waiting for our moment, so that we can be separated. Otherwise, the body would refuse to die. Anyway, after the physical body dies, the astral body stays alive, because people die with a lot of misgivings. They die with a lot of regrets, a lot of I don't want to go, all this stuff. I shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Yeah, they know.
Well, this is where hell was created, on the second subplane of the astral, where all our good stuff and bad stuff is, where we decide that this is heavenly and this is evil. So we all have that idea, and this is where we go to judge ourselves. We judge ourselves by all those parameters of good and evil we've set up in our belief systems. Now we have to pay the piper and live by the belief systems we set up. So we go through what religionists would call a purgatory or a judgment, and we actually, it's the soul reviewing what the personality has done with the personality and saying, well, there's an upgrade possible here, and we might want to do this a little different next time. And it's really not a hell, but for a lot of people, when they've denied a whole shitload of stuff and it's all dumped on them immediately after death, their astral body does burn with a little bit of intensity, because they have to deal with all these things. And you can deny a little bit every day, but after 40, 50, 60 years of denial, you got a shitload of garbage you got to get rid of. And that all has to be processed before the astral body can die and release this information into the soul.
What about people who commit suicide? Now, isn't there that plateau that they get stuck in until they do something different?
Aren't punished, but they do lose the possibility of ascension at death. And let's say somebody died and they dumped all their stuff immediately, and they could just forget it. I don't know woulda, coulda, shouldas. I accept everything. At that point, the person can ascend and get an immortal body. At that point, they would and free themselves from incarnation. But we've built up so many attachments that's rare to do that. And usually you have to go through the process of spiritual initiation for ascension, because you have to drop all this stuff while you're alive. So after the astral body has gone through all this relieving and saying, yeah, I get this, and then accepted itself finally, then the astral body dies and one goes into their mental body of the personality. They have all their belief systems, and the soul and the mental body get together and they say, well, now how can we create a more effective incarnation? How can we create new, upgraded belief systems so that our next incarnation, if we're working on the same thing, will be more effective? Or if we're going to work on a new project, how can we jump into this new project better? So all these things then are worked out by the mental body, and then the mental body dies and the personality is no more. But there are 3 immortal atoms that are saved, that are brought into the soul. These are a physical seed atom, an emotional seed atom, and a mental seed atom. These create all the data that we've had in our physical experience, our emotional experience, and all our belief systems. So we have within all these atoms, these 3 permanent atoms, all the data of all our incarnations. And then the soul reviews this data and says, now how can I initiate an incarnation that will incorporate all this past and give us a new possibility for an enlightened personality? Because that's what the soul is trying to do, is trying to, through experience in bodies and relationships, to create a personality which is of high quality enough and sensitive enough to receive the spirit, which is the resurrection. So this is what we're all working for, is creating a personality which is so open and so sensitive and so loving that the spirit can actually enter into it. And this is done through a process of incarnating, upgrading, learning, experiencing, until finally the personality is so sensitive that it sees the light of the soul. and which is its first connection to spirit.
But
And
isn't
that's-
there like a where they're supposed to be punished for that, where they come over and learn that lesson again until they find out how to be strong and not kill
Some
themselves?
lessons take more than one incarnation.
Right,
Some
yeah.
some lessons take up to 7 incarnations. That's why the soul can run 7 incarnations at the same time, because it's fifth dimensional. So to the soul, they're all going on at the same time. But to the personality, we have a past incarnation and we have a future incarnation, because that's how time looks at things.
So you're not saying that the soul is living again simultaneously in an actual, like there's a whole different scenario. Like, okay, I decided to marry that person, and the next lifetime, no, I decided not to marry that person, or and then there's a whole different lifeline going on.
It's all connected. You don't do anything over again, but everything is connected, because our past is what our future is built on. And that our timeline is created by us to draw a line from a physical presence to a spirit presence. And that is done through experience on earth. In fact, spiritual initiations, the first 4 spiritual initiations, which include ascension, have to be done in the physical body, because demonstrating spirit consciousness in a physical body is the way we bring heaven to earth.
All right, so when we die, we're not going to heaven, but it's just on a different dimension.
Heaven is a tricky term, because it's a religious term.
Isn't there
And
12
religion
dimensions?
is not spiritual. It is a precursor to spiritual. Religion is not on the path, but it can lead one to the path. The path exists beyond religion, because it is soul initiated. And in the future, religion will become like that when all the religions get together and they realize that they're all different colors in the same white light.
Okay, that brings me to, I don't know if you know who Doreen Virtue is. This is so trippy.
She makes the cards and everything.
She was,
Oracle
Hay
cards.
House, one of the biggest. She does angel cards.
Oh, yeah.
She was brought up Christian. There's nothing that she ever taught that was against Christianity, as far as I could see. She went whole right wing, left Hay House. Who leaves Hay House? Left Hay House and is now telling everyone to burn the cards, that they're evil, that they're, and she sits there and she quotes Bible verses and stuff. I grew up Christian, very strict Christian. And I'm looking and I'm like, did she have a negative or evil attachment come? I mean, there's so many twisted things going on. There's a battle for your very humanity at this time. There's a battle for, you're wrong, you're right, what's wrong. And it's very confusing to people.
It is.
And I'm sitting here battling. I'm like, okay, so based on how I was brought up, and I'm looking at, what I do or whatever, but I always, I have a very strong faith in God and Jesus, and I never bring anything that's dark in. I just don't understand. Like, because now, especially because, okay, we're in the end times. It's in Revelation. These times are coming to pass. There's signs, and it's not just with Revelation.
These are end times, and there's a lot of destruction coming, but that's good stuff.
Well, that's a whole other.
Don't you have to destroy your mess to create your future?
How do you get out of your humanness?
You don't.
With the fear
you
and
empower
everything that, because I'm coming from a person that, oh my God, like maybe looking at Doreen Virtue's point of view, oh my gosh, I've been teaching this and this is wrong.
You don't get out of your humanness. You move into it. You remake it in the image of the divine.
How do you, where do you find an understanding of what's truly right and what truly
your heart will tell you what's really right for you at that moment. Your heart. Because what's right for you at any moment is only right for you at that moment. There is no right or wrong. There are no rules. There is no path other than the path we create. And the only time we can create a path is to see the light and create a path to it by ourselves. There's nobody that's going to help us. There's nobody that's going to do anything for us, except show us what we need to do for ourselves.
And
We
they
got
say
plenty of help there.
every religion is just a tool to get to where we all want to be, is in back connected to the one.
Right. That's a good way to put it. And a religion is a tool to spirituality.
But it's gotten really, but it's gotten really, really messed up because there's not all Christians, but there's Christians that are going to be like, and I'm like, well, God never says where and anywhere. God's like, judge not lest you be judged. When you're judging someone, and we all do it unconsciously, subconsciously, whatever, not meaning to. But when you judge somebody, you're just judging yourself.
That's what, if
Don't
you
have a right to
realize that,
judge.
that's okay, because we need to find everybody in ourselves. And then when
And
when we
yes.
don't like something about somebody, that's our own energy bouncing off of them, showing what you don't like about ourselves.
Called
So if
reflections.
if we use each other as a reflection, then we learn a lot about ourselves, because from another perspective, humanity is one being. And they are like an organ in the body of Gaia. Actually, the organ they are is the heart. Which brings me to a really important point. Why is there so much turmoil and chaos in the world? Why is there
so much evil?
heartlessness?
Yes.
Because Gaia is gaining a new heart. Gaia, on her own level, on a planetary level, is
Mother Earth, you mean, Gaia?
right. She is taking the third spiritual initiation, which transfigures her into a higher type of planetary being. This transfiguration occurs in the heart, just like when humans take the third initiation, they transfigure their heart into the fifth kingdom. So Gaia is doing this right now. And if humanity is Gaia's heart, then her heart is bleeding. Her heart is bleeding because it's bleeding out the past and the regrets and all the things which no longer are important here. That's why we have two types of humans on this planet. We have the ones who are into aggression, self-acquisition, they're into control. These are the old heart cells of Gaia. The new heart cells are the ones that can experience unconditional love. So Gaia, as she creates a new heart, she is looking for humans who will manifest that heart for her. So when you look at it from her point of view, we are all cells in Gaia's heart. And that she is of two hearts right now. She is the heart which bleeds and which is moving away, and she is the heart which she's moving into. And this is why the New Age movement and all these really fine organizations are starting up, because there's a new humanity being born on Earth. This is so incredible. It's just, it's
not through children, but through people, right? Because
through
there's
the
new people, new
types
kids
of-
here. It's like, ooh,
Gaia sends out a call. She says, I need new heart cells of a higher quality, of more spiritual quality. And then souls hear that, and they say, well, let's go to Earth, because we would like to be
Well, it's
part
about
of
love,
Gaia's new heart.
not fear. I mean, we need to bring more love into an awareness. And it's really difficult to know what that is in this, I call it the third dimensional.
You won't know what it is, you'll feel what it is. When you're around somebody, you can feel just how much heart they have if you open
their
yourself
energy.
to them.
I mean, and that's when you go into yourself, knowing yourself, you go into, your soul is your real self.
Well,
Right.
Your soul is your connection to your real self. Your real self is spirit.
I'm confused.
We are a trinity. We are a spirit which desires experience in the physical world. Because in order to
is
get that
the
experience,
same symbolism as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
right?
Okay.
We're a trinity, just like our
Because we're
Creator is.
sparks of God. That's what it makes me really angry that they teach Christians that we're separate. That's the whole problem with religion, mainstream religion. It's like,
it's not the whole problem.
Separation
Sorry.
is the
Fear.
true evil on
I
earth.
walked home from Bible,
Yes.
or I walked home from
Separation.
school, and I'm like, if you don't believe Wisconsin and Lutheran, you're going to be damned to hell. And I know the Catholics do it, but whoever. And I'm like, as a child, you're a sponge. And what does that do to that child?
Well,
That
nothing is
that's-
doing anything to anybody,
Well-
first of all.
no.
We have to get away from the idea that anything has influence over our dharma. The soul is an
people don't
involatile
think like that.
force in the world. The soul is what creates the world. The soul is the causal body. Causal means it's the cause of everything. So when we realize that our dharma is the energy in which our soul directs our personality. So
I was
now,
just going to ask you to
what if the
describe what dharma is. If you like, you
what
really
if the
understand what that is.
personality, I'll do that. What if the personality doesn't know what its soul is? It doesn't even know it has a soul. Some personalities say, well, I don't have a soul. I don't believe in that stuff.
What do you mean personality?
That the personality is the self that lives in the physical, the emotional, and the realm of core beliefs. The personality is what we're
So that's a
talking.
trinity
We're
in
talking
itself.
together right now with our personalities, but it's talking about the world of causes. What we're talking about with our personality is where we get all our causes from, why things happen to us, why the world is like it is. The personality needs to discuss this with each other and with itself, and then it starts to feel in its heart that there's some purpose or direction or plan that it's not quite getting. This is the energy of the soul. But most personalities, and they won't look for reasons, they'll just look how to fix what they think is a problem. Well, our dharma is the energy in which our soul directs our personality to stay on track. So if the personality really needs to open up its heart, the soul will actually create a situation for that personality, which is a heart-rending, heartbreaking, heart-opening, so that when the personality deals with it, it will get the quality the soul knows it needs to get. So it's the carrot before the horse, before you're aware of the soul. The soul leaves the carrot around and the personality follows it, trying to gain whatever it thinks it's going to gain. But the soul is really putting the personality in the situations that it needs to understand itself. And once the personality understands itself, it realizes that that's not itself, that that's a character it's playing, and that we are actually entities living in a personality, using them to play characters on Earth, to gain experience so that we might upgrade our personality more consciously. Once the personality starts feeling the light of the soul, it starts all of a sudden feeling its purpose, its mission, it's all the things which the soul was leading it to do, now it starts doing by itself. And it becomes enlightened. It becomes enlightened to its mission, its purpose, and its goals, why it's here in the world. And why all the other people are here also, because all souls are one in knowledge and understanding.
I got a question from somebody
Yeah.
about something that you said before. I think I know what you said, and I think I answered it correctly, but I want to hear it from you. So, all right. Hey, I think they all had to go out. Okay. If you feel how a person is, then how is that a reflection back to you? Something you may dislike. I said you may come off that way to someone else, therefore it's a reflection for you to see how you may be the same way and don't realize it.
But I think Dharma will draw people to ourselves which are feeling what we want to feel. But this is how we reflect ourselves, in that once we feel somebody feeling something, it's either us feeling it with them or it's our feeling reflected off of them. So all feelings are real. We have to realize that our Dharma also creates our astral life, that we feel the things that we need to feel to open our heart.
All right.
Pain-
I'm not
pain is
sure
a-
if that's all the same question or if I said it right or if I understood it right. Okay.
We have
A
different
coworker
word
is
for
a
that.
liar, troublemaker at work. I'm neither. So how, that would,
Let's
aggravate
say,
them.
Let's say a person has a real issue with troublemakers and they just can't see where they're at, what they're doing. So the first thing the soul will do, well, let's throw this personality in front of a troublemaker so they can study the situation. maybe they'll gain some empathy and see while the people is not really making trouble, but they are experiencing trouble and they are manifesting it so others can share in it. So once we understand why somebody is a troublemaker, all of a sudden we can empathize with them and we can see, well, if I had their given situation, feelings, and goals, I might be a troublemaker for a while too. And maybe I have been a troublemaker to some people. This is, I didn't look at it that way. So, I mean, there's a lot, I'm just
Yeah,
throwing things
no,
out
no,
there.
that's a good
That's a
thing.
really good analogy.
So you don't understand what that person is going through that makes them that way.
No, but if we trust our Dharma, which is trusting the influence of our soul, the influence of our soul is always what leads us to where we really want to go. And so if we don't understand why something is happening to us, at least we can know that it's happening for a purpose, because things don't happen without purpose.
So what, like,
Purpose drives everything, whether we see it or not.
is it like a lesson to her in some way, or like how would that?
Okay.
I know what she's trying to
Okay,
ask. So
She doesn't know what she's trying to learn. So she would say to herself, okay, I'm opening space to learn something new here. I'm opening space to learn something that I don't know yet. We have to realize that unless we admit that we don't know something, we're not going to know anything new. So we have to make space for the unknown in our life. We have to make space for the unexpected, because that means we can expand our life.
consciousness.
And we're not trying to get from a lower life to a higher life. That's not really the direction. We want to become from a narrow life to an expanded life. So as we expand towards spirit, we must also expand towards matter, which means we can't go in one direction any more than another direction. All the directions have to be gone in equally if we're to stand at the center of our circle. And when we don't, our circle becomes unbalanced, like a wheel with the spokes some shorter, and our life is rocky. So if our life is rocky, we would say, now let's see, my wheel is unbalanced. Where am I putting more energy in one area than another area? Am I obsessing on my emotions and ignoring my physical life? Am I obsessing on my physical life and ignoring the fact that I'm creating it with my core beliefs? I mean, we have to stand in the center of all these things and not move anywhere in one direction. We don't move in another direction. So as we become more spiritual, we actually become more physical at the same time. We become more present physically. We become stronger. We become healthier, because all these things are really connected if we connect them. This doesn't happen. This just doesn't happen. Evolution, crawls along, and ascension will come to humanity in maybe a few thousand years as a race. But anyone who wants to move towards ascension now, it's a lot of hard work, a lot of self-focus, a lot of being present, and a lot of doing things that our personality really doesn't like, because it's got used to being in balance. So,
That's for sure.
it's difficult. I'm not saying that
I get
this
what
is
he said. Okay.
rolling off the log. This is difficult. Otherwise, everybody would be enlightened if it wasn't.
Okay.
But it's possible. That's what you have to remember, that the door is open now to the fifth kingdom. And humans have been moving along that corridor from the fourth kingdom to the fifth kingdom for thousands of years now. And that every time a human moves into the fifth kingdom, the door is open more, and it's easier for everybody.
So,
Okay, is that the same as moving into the fifth dimension?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
if what just it kills me when I see how people treat animals, all the defenseless. A lot of people say, how can God allow this to happen? How can
Yes.
God allow these children be getting raped and abducted and
Yes.
sex slavery, and then all the things that are happening to the innocents, basically?
Well, first of all, none of that happens to the spirit. And when it happens, the soul initiates it, because love and loss go together. And that the more sensitive we are, the more things we can touch, the more things we have to get rid of. So the more open we want to be to the reality of life, the more we have to pull away from the things which don't pertain to everything. So we have to move in two directions. And I know it's difficult, but we have to move towards the world. Even though the world is in trauma, the world isn't really getting any worse. The world has been covered by denial for hundreds of years. The dark side has been here invisible for thousands of years, but it was working well. They were doing what they were supposed to do because humanity had given away so much of its power. Somebody had to pick it up and use it and run the world with it. But now humanity is taking back its power, and the dark side has no power to use if it doesn't get power from humanity. So they will go somewhere else where they're needed because the universe is in perfect order, whether we are aware of it or not. The dark side came here because it was summoned by Gaia because she needed the darkness to open her heart. Now she doesn't need it anymore, and it's leaving. And humanity simultaneously is taking back the power that they gave away that the dark side was using. Darkness is emptiness, basically, so it doesn't do anything unless something is put into it. Now we are putting light into the world, and the darkness just doesn't have any space.
Is that, okay, let's go into contents of, okay, so is that the same as when you, God, I lost my train of thought, like how the Christians believe, like, I lost my train of thought.
Just about everything religion believes is true.
Right.
It's
but it's
narrowed
the
by
way
perspective.
it's taught and the way it's done, I think, is wrong.
Okay, if there was only red light in this room, everything would look red. But you could see everything. Everything would look just like it does. And then if another person came in and they could only see blue light, the room would look different. It would be the same room, but it would look completely different because it would be blue light. Each religion is one of the colors in the white light. In very near future, all these religions are going to become aware of this, and they're not going to dissolve. They're going to start working together because they all have a piece of the truth, and they're all necessary to make the one world religion. And they're not going to dissolve away. They're going to become even more important because once you realize what each organ in the body does, each of those organs becomes more important. It's not just a body anymore. It's a collective of valuable organs. That's how the new world religion will be. A collection of valuable points of view. When put together, we can get a true image of heaven.
Okay.
So we can't demean religion. We have to put it in perspective that it's useful and it has purpose.
I'm trying to correlate to what you're saying because you're really deep. I mean, you have different kind of training, but I think it's like they didn't have. We have more knowledge now, and the truth has come out more now than everything.
Right.
And when you're putting this with prophecy and history, history repeats itself. But it has brought people to stand up and say, we've had enough. At what point, how bad does it have to get for people to get their, excuse my French, head out of their ass and stand up and fight for what's right? And bringing things to light, your dark shadow self, and bringing that to light.
In general, that's not going to happen.
Right.
What happened is people are coming here who have the light within them. The people who don't have the light probably aren't going to get it. They're going to die and go on to another planet in which they have just enough light for. Because the Great Mother, not Gaia, but the Great Mother of all,
so those people that
puts
don't get it are going to live in a constant hell.
Where they need to be. And there is a planet for every human soul that needs any kind of experience. So we're here because we have the qualities which Gaia is looking for. So everybody that's here is here for a purpose. It's either to remove something from the world by leaving, or to bring something new into the world by being what they know they are. So nothing is out of order, actually, but our idea of it. And once we realize that what's happening is supposed to be happening, we can make better use of it. And that there's nothing really wrong. with the world.
So they can
It's-
live in their own
If you ask a pregnant or a woman that's giving birth, how do you feel? Well, she's going to be in pain. Is this bad? No, because it's part of something that's much more glorious than the pain. Would any mother give up her child to have no pain? Of course not, because the pain is part of the experience, and that's what's happening on Earth. This planet is rebirthing itself, and we are in the pain of birth right now. And once we look at it that way, we can look at it a lot more positively. And that all the what apparent evil in the world, evil, let's define evil as the misuse of power. Wait, do we need to hear this?
Yeah, what's going on over there?
Sorry.
What were you saying there?
We were talking about the people who go to another place. To them, it wouldn't be hell because that's what they're looking for.
Right,
is
right.
An environment where they can express their anger and their hatred, and conflict with each other.
Right.
It only looks like hell to us because we don't want it anymore.
Right.
We want the cooperation and the brotherhood and the love. So
Right. So we can't hate these people.
no.
But why are they hurting defenseless animals?
They're not hurting anybody. Nobody's hurting anybody
They're
because
hanging them, they're choking them, they're shooting them with bullets in the
Okay.
head,
I don't understand
throwing them
that.
out of
Okay,
car
let's-
windows,
Murdering, blowing people's heads
setting them
off,
on fire.
doing horrible
Okay,
things.
stop. Let's talk about that. What about the person who gets shot that's just standing there?
Yeah.
Right.
Don't you think their soul is in control of them? Don't you think they allow that bullet
Well,
to hit them?
But you see,
If
they don't-
everything is in
have the
order, how can anything be out of order? Now, what if I saw somebody pointing a gun at somebody's going to kill them? Would I say, "Oh, that's just his dharma"? No, I take the gun away from him because I was there. I'd have to
they're
act
meant to be
as
doing
though
something. Yeah.
as though I would act. But can I say that that person shouldn't have happened? That would be denying the power of their soul. If I say, "Oh, that person shouldn't have been killed," that's me saying that their soul failed to keep them alive because that's the soul's job. Bodies just don't die. Souls decide when the incarnation is done and when they need to move on. Then they remove the personality from the physical plane with purpose. Everything is in order. There is such an incredible amount of order here that all we have to do is have a little trust that the soul is in control and the order starts seeping in.
Well, that's different for people, but I'm talking about the ones that are just more spirit form than the combined soul.
You
Like,
can't take somebody's fear because their fear is where they keep their unused power. And until they're ready to take back that power, they need their fear so they don't lose the power completely.
for animals.
Animals
I'm
don't
talking
have
about
fear.
Oh, look into those eyes
know,
when you
they
see those
know
videos.
what to stay away from. They have the discrimination of what's dangerous, what's not. They don't fear. Fear is an emotional response to something in which we react negatively to a possibility. Fear doesn't really exist. It's an emotional response to something we don't understand.
Well, how can
False
we get
energy
the
appearing real.
innocence to be out of harm's way? I mean, let the humans kill themselves because they deserve it. That's the way I look at it half the time because they
Everybody
created it.
gets what they deserve.
Right.
That's true. So
When
that
you're
that
talking about
doesn't
an
mean we're
involuntary,
heartless.
you're
That's
talking about an invulnerable child, an elderly, and pets. They didn't
There are
ask
no-
for this.
There are no innocents on that level. The soul is in control of the child. When that child gets eaten or whatever by the dark side, whatever they do with kids, that's the dharma of that child is in line with that. Because
Quite often, these people are the ones who were involved in other incarnations. Just
Good
because
point.
their children doesn't
I'm gonna go to the
mean their soul
bathroom.
has
Okay, bedroom. Go bedroom. You can't handle it.
So I'm going that way to follow.
It's kind of all right. Like it's the incarnation of the soul. Like maybe at some point in time in some life that they've done that to somebody else, and they're coming back to experience it. But I'm saying that animals, though, how could they didn't ask for that? I can't believe that they
Animals
didn't.
I get they're being reincarnated as humans, so
Yeah, but I hope they're not being reincarnated. The same crap.
They're paying the price for
they're
being
paying the
around
price for
human.
what they did before.
You're paying the price for being
Like
on human.
poor Gio
But
and
they were on
Casey.
humans, yeah. I mean, I've read, I don't know if it's true, but they said that animals were really the ones that first taught humans how to kill. And that you could see that if you look at it like we were watching them kill something, you know, I mean, I don't know, but we started eating them because they ate us. This is what this teaching said. I mean, everything is working in balance, even though to us it looks dark, it's all relative, you know. The light is the light we bring to everything. It lights everything up that we see. And if we don't see it, then that means we don't have the light to bring it into our vision. So we have to only work on ourselves, the love in our heart, the light in our mind, and then the whole world lights up around us, you know. And if we can do that, if everybody can do that, then there will be no more darkness, you know. But as long as we carry any anger or hatred for the people that are doing these things, it'll just perpetuate it, you know. And it's hard to do. It's really hard to do. It's so
Yeah,
hard
it
to
is hard to
accept
do.
people who do things like that because we know that's the very depravity of our race. You know, we're part of it. The stain goes on the whole fabric. You know, so whatever they do affects all of us, and we know that, and we feel it, and we don't want them to do it. You know,
Right.
but you can't force anybody to stop doing things because then it's just like the cops coming and telling you you can't do that. No one's going to listen to somebody who's trying to tell them you can't do something. They're going to rebel and they're going to do it anyway. You know, because that's what they want to do. They haven't found that place inside themselves yet that sees it for what it is. It's an aberration. It's a horrible thing, you know, to treat a life form like that. But what are you going to do?
Well, that would cause me to be a murderer.
But humanity-
I couldn't handle it. I'd have to hurt somebody if I see
I'm
them
there
doing
with
that.
her. If I saw somebody harming a child
I couldn't do
or
it.
an animal or an vulnerable adult,
I
I would
would
be
stop them.
I
Right.
would go after
You
them with
have to
baseball bat.
because you're there for that purpose.
Right.
You know?
But if you're not there, you can't hate them for what they do.
Or someone else would be there for that.
Love thy
purpose.
enemy has to go really deep.
And then
Because
Jesus
we
teaches that, and I'm like, ew,
In the
wow, we're
end,
really
the
getting
only
into it
enemy
right
is
now.
ourselves. So when we start loving our enemies, we realize they're all parts of ourselves,
That's
and
why
we
they
can
say love
we
your
end up
enemies.
loving ourselves more in the end because
Why
of
did
it.
they ever explain it?
So our enemies really bring more love into our life if you look at it
It's
that
just
way.
And
And
we're
so
learning
much of our
more
life
at a faster rate with
Is
them.
our perspective.
Forever things are
When we
gonna
change
be
our
very
perspective, we change
Then you've
completely
got
the way our
that
life works out
where
because our perspective creates
we've
what we
been-
draw out of life.
Do you have any
It's old
questions?
religious dogma. We've
So
been
that's
brought
why
up like by
Gio
our
and
parents
Casey
and their-
were
their
abused.
shit.
My
And then we
dog,
take
because
this
they did
on and then,
something in the
oh
past
wow, here we
life,
are.
and they were abused.
And you can see to
And
understand,
now I have them, and they're living a
just-
good life.
you know,
So they paid their price.
we're right about.
Is that it?
And
Yeah,
moved
I've seen
on.
this
Being
before. This is the
abused
greatest
and
time.
moved on, but are
And, you know, the
scared
people
to
who
death.
did us,
They're
they
on
were-
medication
they-
because of the
they-
abuse.
Yeah.
And
I have
they're
to look at my
Are you talking
parents.
about animals?
Yes.
afraid.
Our dogs,
Yeah.
yeah.
They
My
could,
dog.
that they know.
Well, see,
how bad-
humanity
It's
doesn't
not
have
their
a real.
fault because as children we're gentle. Oh, it's all on.
Is she gonna-
Hey.
What? Yep.
To look.
Squirrel.
A lot of what is happening with animals is due to the way humanity feels about its own physical. Even spiritual people say, well, the physical body is the lower nature, and my soul is my higher nature. Well, right there, we are damning our physical body to an experience which is unspiritual. And since all our initiations really have to take place in the physical body is our divine temple. And when we demean our body, then that's the energy we carry in the world. And that's why we demean our animals. People treat animals the way they feel about their physical body. Our physical bodies are in the way. They don't do what we want. They're not as strong. They're not as pretty as we want them to be. They have all these ideas and they're not spiritual. They're dirty, smelly. You know, all these things pile up on our body, and no wonder we have so many physical problems. We've hated our body way too long in a spiritual sense, and now it's paying the price. So, you know, once we start to love our physical nature, we will also love the physical nature that is expressed in animals more. And so we have to see that as being a parallel. It's just somebody said the measure of a society is how it treats its children and its animals, which means how close is it to being innocent, and how close is it to accepting its physical nature? That's the level of a society.
Okay, before I ask you questions that everybody really wants to know about what's happening in the world right now, while we're on the kind of the subject of animals, why is it good not to eat meat?
What
fir-
did you say?
Why is
well,
it good not to eat meat?
well, first of all, you're murdering an animal to do it,
Right.
and taking the life of a conscious being is not good on any scale that I can think of. And whether you buy it in the store, it's just like hiring a henchman to kill somebody because you don't have the balls to do it.
Right.
So,
He's right.
now, there was a point, where animals were necessary to feed humans. Native Americans take animals
Yes.
very ceremoniously, and
And
because
they honor them.
they
They give
honor them.
reverence for that.
Thank
yeah.
you.
But even that, when we take animal DNA into our body, we actually trigger our body to de-evolve towards the third kingdom. Besides the fact that dead flesh carries the energy of the murderer within it.
Is it like the fear hormone? Or something?
It's actually you actually got the death hormone too in it, which is not good for our body, and it carries all the aggression that the death took place, and so it's just pulling us back to a past that we don't need, and it's not that healthy for you either on a physical level. You find that most athletes now are vegetarian because meat is just not that good a protein. So it's not good emotionally because it doesn't spread love to the animal kingdom. It's not good in our core belief because dominating another species is, it's just,
Wrong.
it's
It's
just not smooth.
Okay, then that brings me to the question of why is it good to feed our pets raw food? Because that's what they eat out in nature.
Right. That's what
That's
they're
the
designed
chain
to
of
eat.
life. That's what they need for their optimal
Right.
nutrition, correct?
Right.
We shouldn't be eating. Now, is
Each
even fish and
each
chicken
under
is
their
not
needs.
good for us?
Pardon me?
Even fish and chicken are not.
Well, it's not that they're bad for you. If you want to eat them, you eat them because you want to, but they do involve taking the life of other beings. And they involve eating something that's already dead, which has no enzymes, no electrons, no hydrogen, all the good stuff that we live on. Anything you cook, no hydrogen, no electrons, no life force. So you're missing those three biggies right there by cooking anything. So I wouldn't recommend killing anything before you eat it. Now, when you eat a vegetable, when it's alive, that vegetable doesn't die because second kingdom live on the second dimension and they live in a cellular state of life. So when we eat that, chew up that celery and swallow it, it's alive and it goes into our system alive, and our body absorbs it alive. It never dies. We give immortality to vegetables by eating them, and then we get all their life force, and it merges with our body and their electrons and their hydrogen. And so we are evolving we are evolving vegetables by eating them, and we have a symbiosis with the vegetable kingdom in that way. Animals, we have a symbiosis on the astral because we are training animals' astral body to love by loving them. We shower love on them and they feel it. They don't know what love is because that's from the Buddhic plane. They can't know it, but they feel it. And that draws them towards the higher part of their being. So each unto their needs. There's no good or bad. They're just putting things in the right place. There's no fixing yourself. There's just walking that middle path between all the things that you already are. Make them balanced and you'll be perfect. We don't attain perfection. We discover it within us.
I would think
And
animals
align
know
with it.
love.
Pardon me?
I would think animals know love. They wait for you to come
They
home.
feel it.
They
feel it.
It's like,
But humans,
So they feel it. They just don't necessarily
They can't.
know that feeling is called love.
right, and they can't create it, but they respond
They
to
can't
it.
create love.
Everything responds to love. Plants respond to love.
love.
When you love a plant, they have put on I can't
They
remember
have a vibration.
Wow.
Electrodes.
electrodes on the plant, and the plants respond to good feelings or bad feelings. So everything feels everything. Just the level of its perception changes as we become more self-conscious. We are at the point where we are conscious of these things because we are conscious that they all come from ourselves. So our self-consciousness allows us to find everybody else in us because we are conscious of ourselves and we are one with everything. So we have to allow everything to be in its place, and thing which would put her in a state where she was harmed or anything. I mean, say we're having heart problems, we would deal with those heart problems. We wouldn't remove the heart. It's something you don't do. What you do, Gaia is fixing the things on Earth by attracting the things that you would like. There is nothing. So, when we want to change ourselves, we don't necessarily remove the things that we don't like, but we add something that we do like. Like it said in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, it says when there's an energy in you you don't like, add the opposite frequency of that energy to it, and it will neutralize it. That doesn't mean it'll push it away. That means it'll give you a middle point so that you can see both sides of something. And if we stand in the middle of all the things we know, we stand in a point of power because we are the center of our world.
Can you explain to people how you can integrate negative thoughts, negative conditions into your being so that you can be whole again and not live in that mayhem that you're experiencing?
You empower them. You empower the negative thoughts that you've had because they have purpose also. All right, say in my own personal experience, I had negative events in my history, a lot of negative events. I mean, the more I studied my history, the more negative events I realized, because as I became more aware, I realized that there were so many parts of my history that were really screwed up and I could have done better, but I didn't realize that at the time. So, as I look back, I started seeing these in a different light, a light of understanding. And all of a sudden I realized why these things look negative, why I had to do them, and the enlightenment it brought me in being in those places.
So it's trying to find the purpose.
Exactly. So the worst things that happen to us contain just as much purpose as some of the best things that happened. And then when we get to that point, we're no longer troubled by our past because it all empowers us. And once we no longer have misgivings about our past, it disappears. And that is our only anchor to moving forward, is the awareness of our past. Every decision we make based on what we've done before puts us into a loop of not doing something new. So in a way, the only way to get rid of our past is to love it and see all its value, and then it doesn't bug us. Why we remember things in our past is because we messed with them. We did something, it was good at the time, then we think later, a few years later, oh, that was really messed up what I did. And then all of a sudden, our past doesn't feel good about itself anymore. And it starts coming forward into our present and influencing the way we live our now, which means we've lost some control because we have not appreciated part of our past. So we go back and say, well, I understand why I did it like this. I understand why I didn't, because I didn't understand. I just didn't know. Ignorance is the only excuse, really, of not knowing. And once we realize that, we can say, well, through that not knowing, now I know. Through all my mistakes, I've learned more from my mistakes than anything else. So that's probably why I keep making them. But the thing is that mistakes move us forward, because as we look at a mistake, we look at an upgrade. It's not really a mistake, but it's something that we can do better in the future. So once we love our past and realize it was just perfect, it goes away and goes back to its time, and we are aware of it. And then everything we see is brand new. Everything you knew is something that we can respond to without any partisan thought or ideas or misgivings about what's going to happen. Even if it looks just like our past, we don't think of it because we're looking at things the way they are right now. And this is our point of power. This is the only point in the moment that we can create a future.
So
Because
that
the past
goes
cannot create one for us.
to the saying that you can't continue to do things the same way and expect a different outcome.
Exactly. Exactly.
Einstein.
But you can look at things in a different way and then create a different awareness.
So that's where it comes in. I've learned this recently or the past year or whatever. To be grateful, it's hard for human to be grateful for your hardships.
Yes.
Be grateful for your hardships.
That's a
Now we have
very
an
powerful.
understanding of that.
Right.
And I do. I this year has been all about, stepping out and being gratitude.
Right.
If Blackie wouldn't have gotten so sick, almost died down to 4 pounds, I wouldn't have found it. I see where it's leading me to.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm on the food kick and saving animals and stuff and being aware of what I'm eating.
Everything can move us forward
Yeah.
if we look at it that way.
Yeah.
Because
But most people don't know how to do that. They
well,
weren't taught.
they don't need to. If they don't know, they don't need to.
Okay, that's
No,
interesting.
We
Okay.
all know exactly what we need for what we're capable of using. I'm not gonna tell you something that you have no use for. I'm not gonna tell you something you don't know. In fact, I can't tell you anything you don't know. It's illegal. It's just not done. It's illegal for any spiritual teacher to tell somebody something they don't already know. So I have to find
I don't understand
your
what that
knowledge.
means.
No, I'm laughing because of what they wrote on here. It's so funny. My mom says, "Oh my God, I'm not eating celery anymore. My mind will be telling me it's alive." Did you ever see the Alfred Hitchcock movie where the woman sewed her mouth shut because all the fruits and vegetables were talking to her?
Oh, jeez. No, I haven't.
And then
seen
Linda says, "I'm hyperventilating."
That's
Oh, it's so funny.
So
Sorry.
we're not supposed to eat certain lettuces. So, we think
What do you
lettuce
mean?
is good for us. You can't eat certain lettuces. You can't eat, not supposed to eat tomatoes. You're not supposed to eat.
Because of the
That's an opinion.
No, it's in a lot of books.
Yeah, an
Dr.
opinion.
Gunn.
There's
Well,
a lot of opinions.
Is that
It's
just for weight
research.
or
It's research.
on what
So
level?
Research
when we're
is,
eating those
a lot of research is
lettuce,
based on what they want to find.
it's making us fat.
So they're
They-
looking for a goal,
Unhealthy.
and they're looking for research to fulfill it. What's good for one is not good for another. That's true. But to say that this is like this because it's my research, that's saying it's like that for everybody. And that's hard to say.
It's like the old egg thing.
It's
They told
their
everybody eggs aren't good
research.
for you. Now eggs are good for you. So,
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
And I
eat
learned in
eggs every
school,
day.
eggs were like the perfect food.
yeah.
The problem is any of these, the potato is the perfect food. The problem is what happened to those with the soil and the poisoning
Over the
of
years.
our food.
Yeah, and they kill
So
it.
what was
the
perfect
lettuce is
no more.
fighting us. It's alive. It doesn't want to be eaten. It's fighting us. Like it's
Nothing
inside.
fights us but ourselves.
What's that?
Nothing fights us but ourselves. All the conflict in our world, we emanate towards the world and it reflects it back to us. Just like our body. Our body reflects what our body receives. So the emotions we impinge on our body reflects that back to us and
Absolutely.
shows us what our feelings are doing to our energy. The world does the same thing. The world sends back the energy we send out to it. What goes around comes around. It's a spiritual statement because that's true. The world has no energy. There's nothing actually out there. We're living
So we give it
in a
energy.
big mirror that reflects
So we give
only
it
us
energy.
to ourselves. And
Good, bad,
if we
or
look
indifferent.
deeply enough inside
Yeah,
of
our
ourselves,
thoughts are
we'll
what's
find
creating
everybody
what's
else
going on
too.
out
Our
there.
thoughts create our reality. So how do we change that? Like, okay, there's all these wars going on. How do we change that? The only thing that I can conceptualize is stepping out of that matrix. I don't want to belong to that matrix anymore.
You don't have to.
Okay, I'm listening.
So create one of your own. Create a belief system on the mental plane of just how you think your life should be, what you think your emotions should be doing for you, and what you think your physical life would look like. great thought forms.
But I can't do that for anybody else, can I?
No. Why would
Like
you
I
want
want
to?
to save. Well,
Her daughter.
You can't
Yes.
save anybody.
It's like,
yeah,
Because-
my daughter.
Because that
Suggestion.
would be what the dark side is doing, taking their power for their own good.
How do I prevent that from happening?
You can't prevent anything. You have to empower things. We don't prevent things. We empower them. We bring purpose into
I guess
things.
then I would be acting like God and that, or whatever.
God doesn't
Let's say
enforce
she
anything
chose
either.
to learn this
Control
because she
anything.
doesn't want to listen
Ye-
either, so she's on her own path,
She wants. When
leaning
she's on
to
her own
learn
soul
or
journey.
experience.
It's not that
something.
she doesn't listen. She needs to experience it her way with whatever's going on with her.
What you can do is you can open yourself up to what she needs.
Yes.
And then you will know in the moment what she requires. But she doesn't need anything unless she thinks she does. And then she will ask you. So
That's
you
very
know,
interesting. Yeah.
So the feeling of wanting to save somebody is a good heart feeling, but it can't happen. All we can do is want to assist them saving themselves. The masters don't save anybody. They don't give anybody anything. They just set an example. And if you want to follow it, you can be a master. If you don't, then you don't. It's just that simple.
Well, it's like Jesus is our master teacher. It's like we have all these master teachers out there. They're showing us to live by example. They're showing us the way to the light.
Yeah.
Whether we choose to follow it or not is completely. That's right.
That's the question.
God gave us free will. So I used to hate that. I had to go round and round, and then I don't know. I wrote it down somewhere where I realized why there was free will. But for the longest time, I'm like, why do we have free will? Because why can't everybody be of the light? Why can't everybody be born happy and there's no violence and there's no whatever?
This is our school, I think, right?
Yeah.
We're
It
learning.
is.
So
Gary
I'm
Freehoff, yeah.
like what my business trying to help people and counsel people.
Yeah.
The other day I was trying so hard to wake somebody up. I'm going, you know what? There's nothing I can do until you're ready to see it. Obviously, this is what you came here to learn and experience. So I got to back up out of the way.
Yeah.
It hurts me to watch it happen to you, but there's nothing I can do. I tried to get
We
through to
can't
you.
stop a person's pain either,
No.
but we can share it with them. We can share their feelings and their strife and whatever they're going to. We can't get them out of it. That would be demeaning it. We have to empower them and share it at the same time and help them
Right.
work through it.
Right.
And if we can, let them know that it's not them, it's just an experience. You know, you are not in pain, you're experiencing pain. Pain comes and pain goes. You're not alive, you're experiencing a time of life. Life goes, life comes back. So if we are the operator of all these things and not these things themselves, we can see them a lot more clearly. So we are, you know, the experiencer of love, the experiencer of a relationship, the experiencer of pain. You know, they're all our experiences, which we can gain something from, but we are none of them.
You know, I had an interesting, I call it a miracle that happened for me when we were living when I was living up in Aquarian Gardens. I had some really bad tooth pain that was going on. I'm like, wait a minute. If I acknowledge the pain, because the pain is trying to tell me something, then maybe it'll go away. When I say, all right, I know what you're telling me. I know I need to do this. Thank you for the pain. I swear to God, it went away. I'm like, oh my God. I couldn't believe it that the pain went away. So I was like so freaked out over it. I'm like, it worked. It worked.
It did, because you did what the pain was trying to do for you. And what's the purpose of pain? The pain is to increase our sensitivity. And the longer we're in pain, the more sensitive we become. So it's good not to fight the pain, but realize that the pain is bringing us to a point because we've created it with purpose. And what happens when you get so sensitive from all this pain, all of a sudden you're sensitive enough to feel your soul. You're sensitive enough to feel somebody else's feelings. You're sensitive enough to feel the whole world at the same time. That's the kind of sensitivity we're looking for.
Oh,
You know,
I
so
wanna
pain
feel
is
it
bringing
anymore.
us this is on
It's
this
too heart-wrenching.
this isn't the only way to do it, but it's the way that it's most popular on this planet, is the fourth ray planet. Now, the fourth ray is harmony through conflict. So souls who are looking for harmony by using conflict will come here to gain their harmony and use conflict to do it. Now,
Is that why we got more bad people being born?
No. This looks a little bleak because we're also in the age of Kali, the age of pain.
Oh no.
So this is another thing
Kali.
which it's no wonder there's so much trauma here, because this is a heart-rending place to live, but it's also a heart-expanding place to live. And that when we get sensitive enough to the use of our pain and why we've created it, it changes to something else. Because the fourth ray is also the ray of harmony, harmony through art and beauty. Now, art is a collection of diversity. You take this diverse bunch of colors and stuff, and it's a chaos, and you make art out of it. So harmony.
Sorry.
There you go. It was all blurry before.
Oh.
Sorry.
So a specialty on this harmony on this planet is to use all this chaos and make a harmony out of it. So now art actually starts from chaos, but it's given purpose on the canvas. It's turned into a picture. So all these chaotic things can be given purpose, and humanity, being so diverse and at each other's throats, can all of a sudden start appreciating their diversity, and that people will start seeking out people who aren't like them. Because if I'm really happy with myself and I run into you and you're completely different than me, and I go, wow,
I learned something new today.
I could be more than myself by understanding and absorbing who you are. So when I absorb your difference, our diversity makes us both much more powerful and much more inclusive than before. So this is why we have separate religions, because the power of the diversity of perception of thought, once that's used on this planet and it doesn't create wars anymore, will be incredibly powerful. That all our diversity will start working towards our collective power, and we will start gaining from everybody, and we will start actually looking for people who are different from us, because we realize that power.
I just had to make a comment from one of the comments that I said, but this was a little bit back about realizing how important life was. My mom says, when I had my heart attack, I realized how important life is, and other things were so much smaller and not as important.
I had that same experience. Our proximity to death gives us a whole new look at life. Most people, at their point of death, they realize, oh, life is so, just give me one more minute. One more minute here.
Right.
I don't care how much pain I'm in, just one more minute. That's we have to bring ourselves to the point of appreciation. And that's where love and loss comes in. Love and loss work together, because losing something brings us to a point of incredible appreciation. And that when we go through this, we realize that love and loss cannot be separated. Whatever we love, we will lose. And this trains us not to be someone who lives on love and is crushed by loss, but one who can create love continually and not depend on it from the world. So we are training ourselves to be sources of love, because we know any love we get from the outside comes and goes. It's temporary. It's beautiful, but it's temporary. And if we want to be truly in love continually, we have to be a source of that love. And then we become a Christ in the world. We become a radiator of love.
Yeah. All right, are we ready to move on to the really interesting questions? Not that wasn't interesting.
When's the world gonna end?
Exactly. No. Actually, the very first question that came out was, do you know anything about the president that's supposed to be in 2025? I don't think there's going to be one, is there?
You may not be able to answer that.
Yeah, I know there is so many unforeseen things.
What's the question exactly?
All right, how did she word that? Let's see.
Because there's a lot of talk on all.
Can you see the future of the new president in 2025? I'm not exactly sure.
You see, the president we have is a combination of all the energies of the people living in this country. The president has never actually, it's always a result of who we are.
Is he even
So
really a
it's
being?
up to us when humanity was giving away its power and didn't really care about what it did, it allowed the government to govern them. So naturally, when you give away your power, the only one that picks it up is the dark side. So that's why we had a dark government, because
Yeah.
humanity gave away the power and the dark government came in and picked it up. Lucky it did, because otherwise we'd have chaos. At least it kept a semblance of order in the country. But now people realize that our soul and our spirit is what governs us. Our reality, the service to our brothers and sisters, that's what really governs us. And that we are the governors of ourselves, because we are souls being governed by ourselves. And that the idea of government is ridiculous. So once you know,
Yes, it is.
So how do we
the
take that out?
thing
of
about
this?
government, it doesn't actually exist. It's an idea. There's an idea that we are being governed, so we do. In law, they call that assumed consent. If somebody tells you to do something and you do it, you assume they have power to order you around, just through the assumption of doing it. When the government tells you to pay your income tax, assumed assent makes you pay. There's no law that says you have to pay income tax. Income tax
You're
is
right.
They take everything from you if you don't willingly
no, they
pay
can't.
'em.
Nobody has
They
ever been
did it
put
to
in
me.
jail
It's because you don't know
They
your
raided my
laws.
bank account.
because you allowed it. You
Because
allowed
we
it.
don't know our laws.
We took a 10-week course in law. Realized that most of the things the government does is not legal.
You're
Because
absolutely
they have been telling people to do things, and people do them because they think the government has authority over them. Nobody has authority over us. We are the authority unto ourselves. And government was put here to assign that authority to us. The original Constitution gives us the authority to manage everything in our life, and manage all our properties, and manage all our possessions exclusively unto ourselves. But then the legal system was put in between us and the law.
And
And all of a sudden, the
corrupt.
legal system says, well, you can't talk to that person about what you don't like. You have to have a lawyer talk to them. And the same thing happens with religion. Oh, you can't talk to God. You got to find a priest or
Oh,
something
yeah,
that'll
I
talk
was
to God
told
for
that.
you. So what's happened is we become separated from our power by institutions which have been babysitting us until we can take our power back. For instance, a scenario the lawyer told us, when you get your income tax form, it's sent by a little guy in an office or a woman, that says, well, this person, has these tax requirements. They send you the form, and income tax is for your income. And if you send that person a letter and say that I have no income, I have just compensation for my labors that I've got. So I have no taxable income. Please update your record. The person will say, well, person with no income has no income tax. They scratch you off. Because there is no government. There's only a bunch of laws with people sitting at desks trying to enforce them that have no actually lawful
Well,
intent
then the
in
people
back
get
of them.
audited when they refuse and say, no, you're wrong. And then they find out, oh, well, this person sent you money. And what was this for?
You say
That's
this is
fine.
compensation. This is a donation. If you don't use that word income, the legal system says income is taxable. Real property is taxable.
Mm-hmm.
They changed the name of your property to real property so they can label it differently and then tax you on it. They've changed the words around. For instance, when you're born, you get a certificate of birth. Now, you send that certificate of birth into the county, and all of a sudden they put your name in all capital letters, and they say, this is the birth certificate now. So now it's not a certificate of birth, it's a birth certificate, which means they own you. And which means on the international market, you are worth $1 million. Each person that's born is worth $1 million of assets to the government. Now they can use you as an asset because they're worth another $1 million after your birth.
And that's why we're given a code, a number, a
Yes,
social security
exactly.
number.
And then do the
Exactly.
blood. There's a lot of talk about the blood ritual because they take the blood from the bottom of your feet when you're born and
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
And So blood contracts, but the parents gave us away saying that it was now a blood contract because they
We
gave us the
didn't
right
know.
to take the blood. Yeah, that
We had
should
no
be so.
idea.
And
We
it
had
all
no
happened
recollection.
because
For
of
them
the
to do
assumed
demonic
consent.
things.
We assumed they had the authority to do it, and not even knowing if they did or not, and went along with it. And this multiplied. It started real small, but more and more amendments and changes. Pretty soon our Constitution was buried.
Oh, yeah,
and
and they
all
did
our
that with a
natural
purpose.
laws were
They
gone,
did
and
that.
nobody even knows about them anymore.
That's because, and they did that with a purpose. I told
Yeah,
you they
of
wanted
course,
to take
I
the
know.
Constitution out.
So, how do we know we have power unless it was taken away from us? So, it does not the dark side serve humanity by showing it how much power it's lost? Doesn't how much power we've lost tell us how much power we have? So let's look at a
And that's
perspective
what
here.
they're after.
Are we going to feel
Yeah.
like, oh, I've been just stripped down and demeaned and turn into a number? Or do I say, wow, this just shows me what I can do? Because they've taken all this from me. That means I must have had it originally and I can take it back. So, how you look at your life, the effect it has on you, is determined by your perspective. Your perspective comes from the mental plane, your core belief. The matrix is built on the mental plane, and then it shapes our emotional and our physical life built on those core beliefs of our three worlds. So, we can look at everything in our life as empowering if we use it to empower us, because the dark side, like everything else, is just a tool. It has no energy, it has no good or bad, but it has a possibility
But
of
we
use.
give it energy.
Exactly, because we are the source of all purpose in the world. The world is an empty slate, and what we write on it will be the world we see. And we are now chaos. It cleans the slate. All this destruction is wiping the slate clean so we can write something new on it. So destruction can't be avoided right now, I'm afraid. The destruction is inevitable because there's much more in the world that has to move out to make space for what's moving in. But what can we do while this destruction is going on?
Yes, let's talk about the destruction coming and
We
when.
can hold the light so that it's there when the destruction is over. If we didn't, everything would be destroyed and there would be nothing to rebuild with. So being here while the destruction is going on is our primary purpose.
Okay, how do we survive? Those of us that are awake and aware, how do we
How do we
survive what's
handle it?
coming?
Yeah.
We know that our survival is not in question because it's not up to the external. Our survival is not dependent on anything external.
We'll survive, they won't.
Gaia will keep the heart cells she needs, and she'll apoptosis us out the ones she doesn't need. Humanity is a self-culling organism.
So we
In
need
fact,
to believe.
there was a study done on the DNA in humanity, and they found that there were two distinct types of DNA. One that was very prone to violence and aggression, and one that wasn't. Well, this violence and aggression DNA will actually turn on itself, and the dark side will remove itself with its own energy, because everything works that way. Everything works for the good of the one, you could say.
Yeah.
Even the destruction, when you don't eat for 15 hours and your body starts eating itself, would you say that this is an Armageddon going on inside? Well, possibly, but it's a good one because more stem cells are being built. Your body is regenerating itself by using the destruction. And this is what Gaia is doing on the planet. We're not going to lose humanity. Gaia is not going to rip out her heart completely. She's just going to renovate it, make it new.
Wasn't it true that Gaia's in her Bardo time right now where the Earth is dying? Are we supposed to be being
Nobody's
relocated? I thought the Earth was dying, the stars die and explode. And,
No. The Earth is going through a spiritual initiation, and that can feel like death. Because when all that we think we are dies out of us, we think we've died, but then we find that there is a new self. See, where our ego lives is where we think we are. If we
Yeah.
our ego lives in a
It's
physical
our
body,
stinking thinking.
then we think we were physical. But once our ego realizes that we're actually more emotional, then our ego moves into our astral body. And then when we realize that, wow, I'm actually creating my feelings in my life, then our ego moves into our mental body. And then it starts being enlightened to the power it has to create our life. And once it does that, our ego in our mental body, it can start receiving the light from our higher mental body, which is part of our soul.
I just had to share something that happened to me today because it happened to me once a long time ago when I very first started doing fairs. I had double pneumonia and I was and I was still doing the fairs, but I was sitting on the toilet then, and I can see all the grid work on the floors and everything. I'm going, whoa! I'm actually seeing this reality. It's really freaky. This morning I was sitting on the edge of the bed and I seen it again. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen that in such a long time. I was able to see like grid lines and stuff. It was freaky.
The grid.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm like, wow, I wonder what I could do with that. How can I manifest something out of that? I'm going, is this everybody's manifestation? Yeah, right. Like, I was not on any drugs, I swear.
Uh-huh.
But it was really freaky that I was able to see it. I'm only giving glimpses of that once in a while. I can't seem to see it all the time.
Yeah, we can usually feel the energy back the world, but sometimes we can see it.
It's like, wow. So there's so many different ways that they say this thing is going to happen. It seems like the earth is ready to tip on its axis again and do that flood and changing of landscape and all that fun stuff. But we don't know, is war coming first or is that going to happen first? I'm going, it'd probably be better if Earth does her thing first, because then we don't have to get hit with this nuclear crap either. So, it might be easier to survive, so then.
But it is a simultaneous thing. Humanity can only experience what the Earth is experiencing, because Earth is causal to humanity, just like we're causal to our heart. Our heart can't do anything that we don't want it to do, because we're the controller of our organs. Gaia is the controller of her kingdom. Each kingdom is one of her chakras. So she needs them all, and she needs them all working together, in alignment and loving each other. Just like we need our astral body to love our heart. We need our heart to love our physical body. We need our Ajna center to appreciate our physical body. And we need all these centers working together. Gaia needs all her kingdoms working together. We can help her with that by projecting the possibility that this is possible. When we think something is possible, all of a sudden we make a space for that, and we actually magnetically draw it to happening. Will is magnetic.
All right, so now they're talking about the magnetic turn, but they're also talking about that solar flare coming, and this is like the start of all of it happening. So the solar flare could actually create nuclear energy, so we can still get fallout or whatever you want to call it, or radiation or whatever, because it's coming from the sun. It's like, how do you know how it's going to happen? Is Russia coming at us, or
spiritual initiation? The personality is blasted with an exceptional energy far beyond its normal state, and that shakes it loose out of its box for a moment and gives it a glimpse of where it's going. This is what's happening on Earth. The sun is the higher self of Earth. It is Earth's spirit, you could say. So from the heart of the sun, energy comes into the heart of the earth, and there's a connection there. It's like our spirit is what our heart really feeds off of. So this solar flare is not something to be doomed about. It's something which is part of the relationship between the sun and the earth.
I heard it's supposed to wake many of us up. I mean, there's good that comes
Everything
of it,
the sun
but
does has purpose, because it's the source of our Father's light. Everything from the Father comes through the sun. No pun intended. But it's true on all levels,
like
right?
It's
true on all levels.
A lot of times the resistance is what creates the problems. So people are closed up, they're tight, and this energy hits them and it's just damaging. But if our hearts are open and we receive it, it just flows right through as an upgrade to us,
Right, like
looking
pulling
forward to the upgrade.
a tight muscle.
Right. right?
Yeah.
So when it hits, and then the question is, does this hit, or are we like facing war? And I mean, I heard a couple things like they were asking. I don't know if I sent you that clip. Oh, what is that electronic thing called that runs your house and everything? That's a name, huh? No.
Solar.
It hasn't. They gave it a name, like Siri.
AI.
Like Siri. What?
Alexa.
How is World War III going to happen? And it's by sleeper agents, like people that maybe from
AI.
the COVID shot or whatever it is that they're putting nanobots in people. If
Yeah.
they hit that certain frequency, these people turn on and they can start killing their own mother. I mean, you know, because
That's
they don't
true.
know. They have no
Yeah.
control over
They've
themselves.
given their power away, and now they'll have to deal with it. But it won't affect those who haven't given their power away. When Hiroshima was bombed, and there were some people watching it a questionably safe distance, some of those people were burned to an ash, and other people weren't even touched, standing right next to them.
Wow.
So
Really?
Dharma works no matter how intense the situation might be, that every Dharma is in constant control. Everything is driven by purpose, and the only lack of purpose is in our vision. So sometimes we have to leap beyond ourselves and say that, I have no idea why this is happening, but I know that it's driven by purpose. And by knowing that, we usually receive the purpose because we made space for it. But if we say there's no way, that I'm gonna understand this, then there's no way we're gonna understand it. So, making space for the unknown is extremely important at these particular times, especially because most of it's unknown. Why? Because we're making a change of course. And when you change your course, your goal changes. And when your goal changes, it's unknown exactly where it's going to be until it's locked into the new goal. So having that goal within ourselves and doing everything in our physical life that's goal worthy to our purpose, and making all our feelings goal worthy to how we look at them, and creating the matrix in a goal worthy fashion. If you could create your matrix, how would you create it? How would you change it using the same structure? So these are the things that are done as an individual that have a huge impact on the race. And as far as, are we going to go to war? Probably, to some extent. Because how do we know that we don't want something unless we experience it a little bit? A lot of countries think that the war is necessary because they have to stand up for what they believe is right. Well, all these things have to come to a head where everybody experiences together. No part of this planet can have an experience that the rest of it doesn't have, because that's how Gaia gets all her ducks in a row.
And it's all
is by
based on
having a
greed.
unified-
We need more,
Yeah.
more property, more land. Really? Do you really
Land and
need it?
religion.
Well, greed is just a misinterpretation of self-appreciation, because we know we deserve everything, because we're divine. Of course we deserve everything, but how we get it is a function of the personality. And if the personality doesn't believe it's connected to anything, it'll take it from anything it wants, because it has the core belief
And
that
that's
it
where
deserves it,
start.
but it has no connection of why or how that deserving will be. So here's how a little bit of knowledge can really be used against things, because self-appreciation without empathy creates separation. And separation is the true evil in the world. Separation on all levels is what creates all the problems we're having.
Agree. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not
So
thinking as
find out
one
what
for
we're
each
separated
other.
from. And if we get that separation out of ourselves, we're invulnerable.
All right. So, what are the good ways now? If so many questions on the solar level, like I went and bought myself a solar generator. I don't think that's going to do any good. If the Earth does its thing, there's clouds in the sky, it's blocking the sun. How am I going to charge my generator?
They're purposely blocking the sun too.
Yeah, But
And they're
again, it's
also
just like
putting
when
things
the
in atmosphere
fires,
and
California
causing-
fires were
Yeah.
coming through, and it was blocking the sun, and we were getting all this
There's
stuff
a
in the air.
lot of
It's not safe to go
We have
outside
solar
and
panels.
breathe.
Solar panels are good. Anything
Will they work even with the sun being
they'll
blocked?
work with any amount of light to an
Right.
extent.
Okay,
Not for much power, but something.
you'll get something. Right?
Yeah. So anything you can do which enhances your own self and self-worth, your own position in the world as far as not depending on the external, and appreciating that your feelings are your own to determine, and that everything you feel is important, because we wouldn't know what the world is without feeling. That the astral body is not something that drags you down because of its aggression and its personal feelings. It's something that we can connect with. So the astral plane is being reformed out of separation into cooperation also. So, feel what you feel, and don't have any judgments against your feelings, especially, because they will try to tell you how to feel, because how you feel determines what happens.
your thoughts create your reality.
I think it's important to realize that wherever we are is where our spirit wants us, and we can do the best thing we can do. And to trust ourselves that we can deal with it. We're strong enough. That's hard. We doubt ourselves all the time. Oh, I
Right.
can't do it. I can't.
We're taught to
handle
doubt
this.
ourselves.
That's because we're taught, and it's
Yeah.
impregnated, and it's drilled in us. And that's because they want to take
But
control.
that's our feeling, and it comes out in these people that are telling us that.
No, that's because we want to give them control, because we don't want the control. And
Because then
nothing
we're
ever gets
irresponsible.
taken from us. We give it away. So once we get to that point, we realize that we are in control of what we think has been taken from us. And that since we gave it away, that means we can take it back. If it was taken, we'd be hopeless. You can't find somebody who stole something from you, because they're gone. But if you give it to them, and you know who you gave it to, you can go and say, I want that back. Okay, that's fine. That's what we got to do. So
But
taking
the majority of
responsibility
people
that
don't think that
we
way.
have created this situation is the only way we can believe that we can change the situation.
Now, may I state your situation so you can understand from his perspective?
Yeah, because I'm living. I mean, I do love a lot of what you say.
I
but
tried
know
telling
what I'm going
him,
through personally and why and how. And
and I try showing him how he's created it, and he gets mad at me.
What's his situation?
Okay, so
What's your
he was
situation?
I'm
you,
homeless.
You're what?
I'm
when
homeless.
you're not actually
Oh.
homeless, you have a place to live. I keep telling him to stop calling it that.
Well, on the fourth level.
Homeless shelter.
Why are you homeless?
Because I had gotten into an altercation with another.
Because you what?
I got into an altercation. I allowed myself to be pulled into an altercation. Now I backed out and didn't pursue. But I ended up having to call the police on the matter, and then I was told I had to leave.
He had to
And
leave
they
his
got down
apartment
to
because he
point
called the
where they
police.
said, well, we're just going to not do a non-renewal of the lease. And so I left before my lease was up, but another 2 weeks it would have been up. And now I'm in a situation where
Why do you think you're homeless? Well, what can being homeless do for you right now?
what can homeless do for me right now?
Yeah. Well, you're not stupid. You wouldn't have created it unless it had something to do for you.
Make you think.
Well,
So,
I'm gonna
this is the hard one. Why am I in a situation that I don't like? That's a good question.
may I say what
everybody
happened
should ask
before
us that
him? Because I
question.
want, for your opinion, because this is what I told him. For 2 or 3 years that he's lived there, every time I was on the phone with him, it's, I hate this place. I hate this place. I want to get out of here. I can't stand Portage. Blah, 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 blah.
There's
So-
a good one.
I said, it's because you told the universe you don't want to be there. And
Right.
you didn't do anything to change your situation, so it did.
That would be my guess. Because you are in control.
Mhm.
And that we don't, every thought, word that we utter or believe in is creating our reality continually. You can't say a word with it not becoming physical or emotional in some way. That's how powerful our voice is. So right speech is right up there on changing your life.
Well, I had an attitude of gratitude. I was grateful for where I was and what I had. I still am. But there was, I spent a lot of time alone, a lot of time alone, and as a result, I got lonely.
Why do you think you were alone?
Well, you never, I know when I think about it, we're never ever really alone.
No, you were alone. Why were you alone? You felt
Because I-
alone, didn't you?
Huh?
You felt alone, didn't you?
Yeah.
Then you were alone. Your feelings were true. Now, what's the purpose of loneliness? That's your first question. Why am I alone? Well, what I would say is that everybody needs to be alone to find themselves. If I'm sitting with you, you can't help but experience yourself with me or with anybody, because if you're here and I'm here, how can you not be here, right? So
Right.
if I don't know who I am exactly and you're here with me, it's hard to tell exactly where that line between the two of us is. So we're kind of a blending. You're you, there's a blending, and then I'm me. It's been important for you for a long time for you to find a sense of self that was independent of what anybody thought on the outside of you. You need to be alone because you need to find yourself. And you can't find yourself if anybody else is around you, because then it won't be all yourself. So your mission right now is to find yourself without any exterior influence, and find something that you can live with that doesn't need something else around you. Everybody goes through the loneliness thing. It's a standard part of the spiritual path. If you're not alone, you don't know who you are, because we're all so connected that we can't know ourselves unless we just for a moment at least separate ourselves from everything and see ourselves as an isolated point of light. And then it all becomes clear. Then we see why we're related to everybody and how this relationship can be used. We never lose that sense of ourselves. And that is everything. To be ourself and not need the external is a definition of enlightenment. And then we start using the external because we don't need it. Anything we need, we're dependent on, and we can't use it because we're dependent on it. Anything we don't need, we can use because we have access to it as a sovereign point of will. So you're really where you should be from my point of view, because there is no lack, but you've never had enough of your sense of yourself. You were always more concerned about other people than yourself, and this caused you to demean yourself over time and limit your power in the world. And you can take that back anytime, just by getting into your loneliness, realizing that you're homeless because you want to be homeless, and that this is your experience. And if you can make that into something powerful, then you won't need it anymore and you won't be homeless. But for right now, things go on while we need them. And when we realize just how valuable they are and we take full advantage of them, all of a sudden they're gone. So this is where love and loss comes in. When we come to the point of loving something completely, we usually lose it, because then we move on to love something else. So this is how we learn from the world. We attract things with love, we appreciate them, use them, and then we release them, and we love something else. So, you got to, and the worse it feels in general, the more important it is, because that's going to shake you out of your box sooner than anything else. So,
what is it that
all I
you're
can say
doing in
is
your alone
embrace
time
what's happening
to
to you.
utilize
Don't,
space?
not that you want it to go on, you want to stay homeless. That's not the point. The point is in completely appreciating being homeless and then moving on from there.
Your mission, if you decide
to
to
take
accept
it. Yeah, right.
This is where
I
your
say that
home
all
is.
the time.
You
I'm
live
always
in the
quote
center of
Mission
your head.
Impossible.
That's the only
Oh,
home
yeah,
you need.
yeah.
I said you live in the center of your head. That's the only home you need.
Antonin Center.
And the Ajna Center. That's where spirit touches body. So if we think of ourselves as living in the center of our head, we will get a better overview of what our body's doing. We will look down upon our emotions and see them organized. We will look down upon our creativity and see what we can do with it. We will look down upon our power and see where we should be using it. But you have to live in a place that is not part of all the things you're using, because the hammer can't drive the nail. It needs the carpenter holding the hammer. So we need to use all of our centers, all of our perceptions, and all of our presences, but never become any of them.
I love that analogy.
That was awesome.
Yeah, right.
So how do you let go in a very materialistic world of anything? Like, I did an example one day with Jade. I grabbed her big crystal ball and I go, well, how would you feel if I walked out the door with this? And she started flinching. As I would too.
I told her, I give you. No, can I?
Right, no. But why are we attached to all this?
Because we put part of our identity into it.
Okay.
So once we
But when
have,
it
once we
becomes
have
too much.
an experience with something, it becomes part of us just through that shared experience. But that's why with the hammer and the nail, we are not those things. We have experienced those things. And we can take the experience with us without being attached to the actual event.
So how do you detach for your own good?
Because you take the experience. Like, for instance, when our cat died, I took the
Yeah.
experience of living with him for 5 years. That's permanent. Even though he came and he went, the experience is permanent. The world is like that. Everything we experience in the world is ours forever. We are immortal, so we make things immortal just by experiencing them. But that doesn't mean we have to attach to them. When we attach to them, that means part of our identity was trapped in that thing, and we have to extract it and let it move on. So we have our whole, everything in here that you like probably has a little bit of your identity into it. And if it was taken out, might feel a little less. It might be imperceptible, but say it was all taken out,
Oh, yeah.
then you might actually feel something that you had less identity. Now, this is what we have to watch out for, because as we go through life, our identity gets sucked into our life, and all of a sudden, all we are is the things we have and the things around us, and the people we love and the people we know, the things we do. And all of a sudden, that's our life. And then when we're ready to die, as Don Juan said, the ego comes and says, well, what do you have for me? I'm ready to accept all the gifts you've garnered. You say, oh no, they're all mine. I can't give them up. This is my stuff. I can't give up my stuff. So, okay, well, you can come with it. So the ego takes you and you die, with all your stuff. What about letting go of your stuff, feeding the ego with it, and then the ego doesn't care about you, because if you're here giving the ego stuff, you're feeding it. You're feeding the universe experience. So it's not going to want you to die. It's going to want to keep you feeding it. So if we keep giving stuff up that we experience, we love it, we experience it, and we lose it, and we move on. This feeds the universe, and this makes us worthy to be here. But if we just grab all this stuff, stick our identity with it, and just become static, the universe has no use for this. It harvests it up because it wants the experience. So by moving and leaving things behind, we don't stop loving things, or we don't give everything away, but we live with an attitude of detachment, and we act with an attitude of indifference. So we always remain ourselves as we experience everything around us. That means nothing can be taken away from us that has our identity into it. We can love something without being part of it. And you can love that table without having any of your identity into it. And that's tough, because usually love draws us with it. And when we love something, we make it part of us. It's just like it sticks onto us. So, this is something we all have to deal with. There's no easy way to release attachment, because it's a constant effort, because we're lovers. We love everything. It's so easy for us to love something and to put ourselves into it, just like God did. God put itself in everything so that there would be God in everything. We have to realize that we do the same thing, but we have to do it in a controlled fashion where we put our love into things, but not our identity. Wherever God is, it's still there, even though it's also in the world. We have to be like that. We have to love things without being attached to them. It's like if every parent knows that they have to cut their kids loose on an energetic level, not just out of the house, but cut off that energy which makes them dependent.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough. None of this is easy. None of it is
it's
easy.
not.
But it all yields where we're going. Because that's why we've come here. We can do it. The Buddha's middle path. He doesn't say leave the world, he says walk down the middle of it. So both sides of the world are equally available. And we can pick from either side as long as we stay on the middle path. And then all is our kingdom.
I had a question speaking about that. Did Jesus, supposedly 40 days, 40 nights, you talk about in the Bible, did he study with the Buddha?
Yeah, he did.
So
Actually, Jesus didn't. Christ did. Christ is not Jesus. No,
Right.
Christ is Maitreya.
All right, explain that one. That's
I was
it.
Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
No, Jesus was the Christ of being. The Christ is an Atlantean word meaning love from God, the essence of God's love.
The
So-
figure of the sun.
When a person feels God's love, when you feel God loving you, it's like no other feeling. I mean, it's a feeling in itself, and that is the Christos that entering your heart, because
Christ
only the heart
consciousness.
feels the love of God. So,
Like a father would for his son, right?
right.
Okay.
So the word Christ now means the eldest brother, which was the first person to receive the Christos. Maitreya, the entity who did this midway through Atlantis. When the first part of Atlantis was involutionary and the second part was evolutionary. That's where humanity switched from evolving towards matter to evolving away from matter. The first person who stepped onto that evolutionary path was Maitreya, where he opened the door into the fifth kingdom. There was no fifth kingdom on Earth in Atlantis. There was just a human kingdom. But once they had reached their maximum density, then they started evolving away from matter. And Maitreya was the first person who did this.
I don't understand. Doesn't Atlantis,
Atlantis,
they have all the crystal technology?
yeah, they
Didn't
had
they have
crystals.
all this great technology?
Yeah, they did.
But then they got greedy and that was their fall.
They
Well,
stole the heart from the center of that earth or
yeah,
planet they were in.
area.
you could say they got greedy, but that was their mission, to delve as deeply into matter as possible before they turned humanity around.
mean the
to
material.
Yeah.
When you say matter, you mean material. Okay.
So, the most evolved people in early Atlantis were the most materialistic, the most physically and psychically powerful.
Is that not how it is today?
No.
Well, there's Atlantis and Lemuria. Too.
Well,
I never
Lemuria,
think it's
but now Lemuria is not Atlantis. This is the fifth race we're living in. It's called the Aryan race, not because it's white people, because it's the fifth race. Everybody that lives here now is an Aryan race.
Mhm.
Atlantis was the fourth race. It went on for 26,000 years. Lemuria was the third race. These are different upgrades in the human. See, Gaia looks at humanity as a single being. So the Lemurian heart of Gaia was different than the Atlantean heart.
The Lemuria was the love
Love.
part of it.
It was more earth-centered, more earth
Absolutely
magic.
not material.
Right, but it wasn't
It was
very
love.
willful either.
It wasn't what?
It wasn't very willful either, because it was still evolving towards matter.
Oh,
And the second race, the silver race, Pangea, was even less material. So you could say they were more spiritual, but they were less willful, so therefore less evolved. And then there was the first race, the golden race, when humanity first came to this planet. They lived in etheric bodies of energy. And slowly
wow.
densified, race by race,
Boy, were
and-
we stupid.
until they
Ah, yeah, like
until they
choose
became
six
the
races.
Atlanteans, which were the densest race. They were probably 10 to 12 foot tall, very powerful,
Are those the
telepathic, psychic, had all the physical
Who Who are those?
qualities
Gold people.
which people, the giants and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
What?
that's where they came
What are
from.
they called?
They live in Mount Shasta.
The
Nephilim.
Nephilim.
No. Remember that girl that was here that time?
Palladian?
No. Starts with an A. With the tall ones. Gold. They enslaved us for gold.
Oh
the
yeah,
Anunnaki.
And an Aki.
Anunnaki. Yeah,
Yeah.
just humans from a different planet.
What?
That's all like they turned into the
They were
Anunnaki.
just humans from a different planet, Anunnaki.
Were they actually human?
Oh yeah, they're fourth kingdom. Fourth kingdom lives on every planet. How
So,
could a planet exist without a heart?
okay, so what are the reptilians? They're not human.
Yeah, they're fourth kingdom.
What do you mean?
Different form.
They're just different forms. The human spirit can take many different, can live on any planet it wants, but it always makes the body contingent to the planet it's living on. So if the reptilians live on a planet where a cold-blooded form is more advisable for the spirit to live in, that's all. It's only the form that are different. Humanity, there are humans living on every planet in some form or another. Obviously, on the gas giants, you couldn't see them because their physical bodies are physical energy.
Oh, they're not in their physical body anymore.
Well, they have a physical. See, physical is relative. If you're in your astral body and you're dreaming, you don't realize dreaming, you punch somebody, that's going to hurt
like
them.
in your dream.
It's going to feel solid, right? All depending on where your perception is.
But it's
so
only
just
a
because-
memory in your dream.
Just because you're in an energy body doesn't mean you're not solid.
See, I don't understand that.
When you're in your astral body, it's just as solid as your physical is right here. It's all a matter of perception.
Oh, I thought it was just kind of like energy.
Energy feels solid
But
if
we
that's
are
the
all
densest
energy.
body you've got.
But we're in our dense
But it's like
physical
I can
body.
touch you,
And in
you're
the
there,
astral
but
body,
spirit is like
like,
I have so many questions.
Say you have a dream about somebody.
That's good.
Yeah, right. And I know there's
Yeah.
a question I wanted to ask, huh? They need to go potty.
It's just as dense.
I need to go out too. I'll be right back.
Is there
Good
any
question I was
any
gonna
questions
ask.
coming in?
No, I have to go. Okay.
so.
Thank you, Gabriel, for all the information. That's my mom. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mama. Hi,
Oh,
baby.
calm down.
Oh, geez, there was a question right on my tongue. Oh,
Why are
there's dog people, there's cat people, there's horse people. I mean, is there like a planet out there for all of this? I mean, they all incarnated here. They say that this planet is like, if you watch Babylon 5, it's the stop off point where all the different aliens or gods, whatever you want to call it, dropped off their seed. So in case something happened to their planet, they can come back here and start again and get their DNA. Mhm.
I don't know. I
And
mean, for an ascended being, he could leave a body on a planet to come back to, but that's only for an ascended being who created their body. That's not a normal thing.
okay? I'm
So, you know, if you want to
confused.
go to a planet, your spirit connects with the soul of that planet, and the soul creates you a body for that planet. So the spirit can decide any planet it wants to have a human experience on. It creates a human body, you know, that it already exists on that planet. The planet creates the body, really, depending on its abilities and its environment. And then the spirit decides whether it can use that environment, and it creates a body, you know, that will survive on the planet.
well, see, they talk about like with the
Humans aren't bodies, first of all. So when you look at a body,
Did you say humans aren't bodies?
they're not bodies. No, humans live in bodies, and humans can live in a
Right.
wide variety
So
of
what-
bodies.
What
Human and
constitutes a
humanoid.
difference
Okay.
between human and an alien?
bedroom.
There are aliens are just humans that live on different planets.
What makes them human?
They're fourth kingdom consciousness. The only thing that makes the kingdom is the consciousness that initiates it. For instance, animals are here just because they're conscious, and their consciousness creates their form. We're here because we're self-conscious, so we've created a self-conscious form.
But didn't God create everything and all?
No, he created the possibility for everything, and he created our spirit, which then deals with that possibility.
So
in
why was
whatever
it taught
wants.
completely a different way? That God created
Heavens and the earth.
heavens and the earth.
He did. God created everything. And he also created us
Right?
as immortal beings and gave
Right.
us free will to
Right.
create anything with all the stuff he created. So our world is
'Cause we
comprised
create through
of
him.
not everything
Yeah.
God created, but everything we create our world out of that
Mm.
came from God.
Some
That's
things
why
we
we world is
created.
different.
Okay, maybe that's why they didn't know. Are there things that God didn't create in the beginning
How could
that
that be?
we ended up creating?
How could that be?
I don't know.
How could there be something that God
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
create?
Who created God? That was always the question. You should have that
How
in
did
church.
God come into being,
As
and
far
what is
as-
God, or who is God?
As far as the most enlightened person can perceive, there's no beginning. That God has a creator also.
And there's no
Ad
end.
infinitum.
Infinite.
Right. We enter the light, but we never touch the flame.
So we never die.
What? We've always
Our
been
physical
God.
bodies die, but we, our true selves, never die. We live on.
Right. Until we take the fifth initiation, then our
Huh?
bodies can live on with us.
Mm.
That's the resurrection.
Now, is that when we get to heaven?
That's the resurrection.
Isn't it?
Getting to heaven is
Isn't
moving
it
into
what-
the fifth kingdom. There is no heaven.
God and the angels don't live in heaven. They live higher. Don't they live above heaven?
Heaven is a religious term. It doesn't really have much meaning.
Okay.
Let's deal in kingdoms, okay? It's much more
Okay, so I'm
scientific.
not used to hearing
and
about
it's much
kingdoms.
more
but okay.
accurate. The fourth kingdom is. Did you read my article on consciousness on the Facebook page?
I may or may
It
not have.
explains reality in terms of consciousness, because God just created consciousness. He didn't create anything else. Consciousness creates form. So from consciousness, God created to form what we've created. The tool we use to do that is soul. So we have the three parts. We have spirit, immortal spirit, and then we have the consciousness that spirit has can create a certain quantum of reality, depending on its qualities. And we use soul to manifest that in matter.
Sorry.
Now, each kingdom has a consciousness. The fifth kingdom, which is also called the kingdom of souls, are made up of all the entities which have moved their ego out of the personality into the soul. So they are souls, the kingdom of souls. The sixth kingdom is another level beyond that. And there are 7 kingdoms living on earth. But we're all aware of our own consciousness and those which have similar.
So there's 7 kingdoms. See, that's where I'm confused. There's 7 kingdoms living on earth.
Right.
So do we get to reunite with our loved ones when we die? Like they say we do.
It depends what you love, their bodies or their spirit.
Hmm.
If you love their spirit, you'll see them again. If it was their bodies, well, they're gone. So,
Well, that's kind of
where
a
the
point.
ego lives determines where the ego's experience is.
Because they say you devolve, like your age comes back down to your, I guess, your healthy
30.
prime age of 30 or something like that. I mean, it's just with this kid and his experience of passing over. He says, I watched this old man and his face just got younger and younger and younger until he was about like 30 years old. And watching them explain to him what had happened to him and where he is and, you know, all that stuff. So, I mean, it was interesting listening to this kid's account of what happened, and Jesus sent him back to tell people what's going on
So, yeah,
over there.
near-death experience.
Uh-huh.
Correct.
So yeah, and so that was also a question now, like with the COVID thing too, that they're injecting different DNA,
Mm.
like someone is trying to steal our bodies or steal our
They want our DNA.
And they're saying if our DNA
They want
changes, then we
control.
can't
They
evolve.
want
No,
control.
I don't like that.
But we have something. They know that we are these awesome creators. They don't want us to know the truth of our power. They want to take that from us.
I know.
But now is a great time to be on this planet because people are waking up. I'm
Right.
like, you're not gonna take our power.
Yeah, but can we evolve? I mean, can we ascend, not evolve? I know we're evolving all the time. So if they
Oh, how do
really
we
they
ascend?
compromise our DNA or
Ascension
who
is
we
part
are,
of the spiritual process. It takes time. It's the fourth initiation, essentially.
no matter what they do to us, we can still
Nothing
ascend.
can be taken from us. That's the I have to get that core belief into you
Mm.
that nothing can be taken from you.
There is no they.
And there is no they.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
What do you mean there's no they?
It's an
There's only
idea.
us.
You're 40.
When we have a they, we
I gotta
create
pee.
a, you know,
Don't go away.
So then,
and that's
So-
that's who they we give our
so our
powers to.
government and all those evil people are doing wars. They're actually an illusion, so to speak.
Well,
They're not real.
people. You know, they're on their trip just like we are.
I know.
You know, but if we separate ourselves from them and say they are them and we are us, we create sides, and then we create, you know, preferences, and then we create conflict. and
Okay,
we create all those things.
so when
that-
we're in this human form, we're in this human consciousness. Okay, you go, and there's a mass murderer out there, or a person that's a pedophile or whatever, and they do such horrible things to, like, let's say my daughter, and I know that there's no justice, and I go after that person that hurt my daughter, and I'm gonna maim them from limb to limb because they did one of the most horrible acts to somebody that I love. I'm gonna have great animosity and hatred for
Sorry,
that
you had to
person.
take a pee break.
Everything that will keep you from being free. It
And
will
I
tie
understand
you,
that
yeah.
too, but how do we get over that?
You just have to do it.
If you guys have any questions, please type them in,
Right.
send them in, so we can get them
There's
answered.
people that are in these situations,
Your
horrific
daughter is
situations.
pure heart. She'll never have something like that happen to her.
You're
If She
right.
does.
You're right.
It's for a good purpose, you know.
You're right. I just talked to her yesterday and she said something. I
Well, I'll
kind
just
of
have
wanted
to
to
wait
share it
this
here, but
Hmm?
she
I'll just have
said,
to wait
Mom,
this
she's
situation.
taking philosophy and she wants to be peace studies. She goes, Mom, I absolutely love Latin philosophy. And I go, as opposed to what?
Getting into
She
my
goes,
cookies.
Western,
What?
because
Getting into my cookies.
we seek for truth here,
Okay, so then
but
how I'm understanding
we're
it
separate. We're segregated. We're taught to segregate.
is they can't stop us
in
from
Latin,
ascending,
there's
They
no
can't stop us from
segregation.
from ascending.
They're accepting
No.
of other religions, you know, as he was talking before. And I'm like, and I thought about it. And I'm like,
Can they
you know
change us
what,
into
honey,
something
you're
else? I
right.
guess, huh? Anything's
then
possible if
she's
you think
like,
it is.
They
Right?
Well,
can't do
It
anything
felt to her like her
Actually,
teacher was
because they
trying
have
to
no
correct
power.
her, and I go,
except what we
and I
give
thought
them.
about it because I'm going in her head, and I said,
So when you look at how much power you've
like,
given
I
away,
said, don't
you
allow
can get an idea of how
yourself
much power you
get
have.
outside of your head, and I know we're in our heads all the time, you know. But I had a great conversation with her, and I'm like, help me understand if we're on the same
Lisa?
page. Am I understanding it the same way? You know,
Yeah.
what? Yep.
We can't conversate
Oh,
online.
sorry. I
Okay.
didn't. Online,
He was in
sorry.
the bathroom when we started.
Yeah, I know,
Yes.
I know. But she will go on for about.
Whatever.
That
We're
one
gonna
thi-
have to
that one
switch
thing you
seats with
said
you.
before, what is God? God is the sum total of everything and something else beyond that.
Yeah.
So God is subjective and objective. And we're the objective part.
So now I hear there's how they explain that God's with the big G and God with the little g. God with the little g is all the creators of maybe the different planets and things like that. So
Everything
it's like
put
everybody has an
together.
overseer kind of thing. But God is like a life force, energy. Is that
Well, everything has two sides, the objective side and the subjective side. So our subjective side is our spirit. Our objective side is our body. God's objective side is everything. Its subjective side is the unknown.
She really is.
Mm.
She does.
pretty good?
She
Well,
absolutely.
okay. Enjoyed listening.
Any more questions?
Any more questions out there from anybody?
Libra. air and fire.
Thank you, Linda. I jumped in your seat before and said, "Hi, everybody." She says, "Hi, beautiful." Oh, you're still on, Mom. Interesting. Okay.
I had a question.
Now, one last question here.
Well, me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is brought up. There's been a couple scenarios to this, but like people that have Alzheimer's and dementia, what's really happening to them in that state of mind?
It depends what they're experiencing.
They jumped out of the horrible trauma that they had.
Well,
in their life.
something else is going on. You don't jump out of something without jumping into something else.
Could it possibly be that she's experiencing past lives?
There's a lot of reasons for everything that happens, but we can't say because it's not our experience. All we can know is the purpose of driving it. That nothing happens without purpose, because purpose is causal to life.
When we can see another person's soul, we might understand the purpose, but until then, we can only trust there's a purpose. It could have been somebody who was so heavily identified with their intellect and such a snob, thinking they knew everything. They come back, they get Alzheimer's, they're stupid, you know, and then they're learning what they need to learn.
That's what happened to me. No, it is.
I'm sorry.
Exactly what happened to me. When I had seizures for 8 years, I had a grand mal seizure every 3 months for 8 years. By the time that was over, I was brain dead. You know, my mind was just about gone. So what it did is allowed me to lose a lot of arrogance and self-righteousness and a lot of things.
What was this?
And it allowed me to reboot my personality from the presence of my soul, which apparently I didn't lose. But I did lose everything my personality pretty much had stored up because I was done with it. So, you know.
So you're a completely different person.
So it might look like,
like a walk-in?
That poor person having seizures. Well, you know, for me, I would have thought, well, yeah, I don't want to have seizures. That would be bad. But yet, when I look back at what it did for me, I have to realize that my soul created those, and it got me a lot farther than I would have got not having them. So now they're a blessing from this perspective. They weren't a blessing when I was having them, you know,
Right.
but you know what it allowed me to do was way beyond what I could have done, you know, with just effort.
Or less time
Yeah.
or something. That was after Lyme's.
So
wow.
the lines and then the seizures. So it allowed me to recreate myself. It allowed me to
I
actually
didn't
create
find anything wrong with the self I knew
a
you
new
as.
incarnation. So I feel like I was reborn. Yeah. By my own hand.
He's a lot more
Interesting.
empathetic. He's a lot more understanding of other people's view. He's definitely different. I mean, age does that for you too. You know?
Yeah, we learned a
that
lot.
is true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you don't have them anymore?
No.
Yesterday too.
Stopped them about
Experience.
7 years ago.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's cool. You evolved to where you needed to be right now.
Well, yeah, it all worked out.
No way.
Okay. No questions.
Just has it in for me.
All right.
I
So
don't know why. I'm just
anybody
trying to
else things?
understand.
Do you have any other questions or you just want to discuss it later?
Well, I think so.
Okay. He's thinking the dogs. All right. Boy, it always keeps getting so blurry over here, and I don't understand why. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here, and it's going to be available for people to rewatch and look at. So it'll probably stay on YouTube for a while, and I will save it myself. So if it ever does go away and you need it, please feel free to contact me and let me know. Gabriel will probably have a copy
We are the
too.
heart of the world.
Yes, we are the world. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gabriel, so much.
They're
Namaste.
remembering other people. They're not making them up in their head, but they remember other people.